After 30 years of marriage, my husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer. He decided to embark on a solo trip around the world. Worried, I followed him, only to find him staying intimately with his first love in a hotel. He said coldly, "All these years, I have regretted marrying you every single moment. Before I die, I want to be with the person I love most." My daughter also scolded me for not being considerate of my husband. If Dad had really wanted to do something with Aunt Wu, he would have done it years ago, given how long they've known each other. It was only then that I realized they had remained in close contact all these years. The return flight crashed. When I woke again, I was back on the day our two families met to discuss the marriage arrangement. This time, I said bluntly, "I don't want to get married. If there are no objections, the children's marriage is settled." The sound of my father-in-law's voice in my ears jolted me fully awake. After double-checking, it finally dawned on me. I had gone back 30 years in time. Su Qingyu wore a sullen expression, clearly reluctant, and only held back from lashing out because his mother-in-law was restraining him. Clutching my pounding heart, I remembered what had happened just the day before. Fearing Su Qingyu might have a relapse, I ignored my daughter's protests and flew for over 10 hours to reach him. The door was answered not only by Su Qingyu, but also by someone in a bathrobe standing behind him. I stormed inside, furious, and confronted him. He said impatiently, "What's wrong with you?" I said I wanted to travel alone. "Are you deaf? For all these years, I've regretted marrying you every single day. Before I die, I want to be with the person I love most. Please, don't disturb my final peace." With that, he wrapped his arm around Wu Yufei's waist and kissed her on the lips right in front of me. For 30 years, he had never taken the initiative to be this close to me. Wu Yufei held him tighter, her eyes fixed on me, brimming with smugness and defiance. They were so intimate, it was as if they were the loving couple. It felt like a punch to the gut. For 30 years, we weathered every storm together, and I always believed we had a marriage of mutual respect. I never imagined that with his single word of regret, it would all become a cruel joke. No wonder he's been so cold to me all these years. After being shoved out the door, I called my daughter with trembling hands. Even without Su Qingyu, I still have my daughter. But when she answered, she scolded me impatiently. "Mom, don't you have anything better to do? Dad is sick, and you're still worried about petty jealousy." If he had really wanted to do something with Aunt Wu, he would have done it years ago. Aunt Wu has never fought for anything all these years. This is their last time together. And you still want to go and stir up trouble? Before I could respond, she hung up the phone. I stood there in a daze, watching the crowds pass by, before suddenly bursting into uncontrollable sobs right there on the street in a foreign land. I had thought that Su Qingyu's willingness to marry me and have children meant he had at least some affection for me. Little did I know, even after 30 years, his heart still belonged only to Wu Yufei. When I finally stopped crying, I realized Wu Yufei was standing behind me, her face full of mockery. "Jiang Wanqing, ever since we reunited 15 years ago, Qingyu and I have never lost touch. Remember when you were in the hospital with that broken leg? Changwu was with me on a business trip then." As she spoke, she pulled out photos to show me, one after another. They were intimately embracing in different settings. "On your 25th anniversary, Changwu was at my place watching a movie. When you were caught in that shooting in Italy, Sungwoo flew all the way back just to bake me a cake. And what's more, enough, I couldn't hold back from cutting her off any longer, my heart aching as if it had been pierced through. So all those times he stood me up, he was with Wu Yufei, but I always made excuses for him." Wu Yufei sneered. "Qingyu has always loved me. You're just the other woman with a useless marriage certificate." I shoved her in a rage. The next second, a hard slap sent me sprawling to the floor. Su Qingyu barked, "Jiang Wanqing, get the hell out of here." After the outburst, he anxiously went to check on Wu Yufei. My heart finally gave out. I bought the next available flight home. While flying over the Pacific, the plane malfunctioned and plunged into the sea. At that thought, I spoke up, "Uncle, I don't want to get married." Hearing this, Su Qingyu looked up in surprise, his expression growing complicated. I had been chasing after him since we were kids. He never expected me to refuse. My father-in-law also hesitated. "Well," Su Qingyu suddenly interjected, "let's start as friends. Feelings need time to grow." I was taken aback for a moment. It took me a moment to realize he just couldn't accept me giving up on him so abruptly. I went back to the dorm alone, and my roommates asked curiously, "Weren't you supposed to be getting engaged to Su Qingyu?" I shook my head. "Don't spread rumors. Su Qingyu and I have nothing to do with each other." Under their astonished gazes, I gathered my things and headed to the classroom building. In my past life, I was originally on the list for the government-sponsored study abroad program, but to marry Su Qingyu, I voluntarily gave it up. This time, I'm determined to seize this opportunity. Stepping out of the office, I practically skipped a few steps in my excitement, only to run straight into Su Qingyu and Wu Yufei. Su Qingyu looked at me with disgust. Have you no shame? Why are you following me again? I was completely baffled. Qingyu, he does like you after all. I can understand, Wu Yufei said. Wu Yufei spoke with a tone of grave concern, but Jiang Wanqing, following someone like this is really quite rude. I scoffed. You're the picture of politeness. You two are a perfect match. Su Qingyu's face instantly darkened. What's with the sarcasm? You're the one who's been pestering me, I said indifferently. Oh, fine, I won't bother you anymore then. His expression changed. Jiang Wanqing, you've even roped my parents into this, and now you're playing this game of playing hard to get. How pathetic. Don't think that just because you saved me, you can use that to blackmail me. I scoffed inwardly. Where did he get all this confidence from? I'll make it clear to your uncle later that I'm not interested in you. Su Qingyu stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly shoved me aside and stormed off in a rage. It was only then I remembered, I had gotten his class schedule before and was engineering chance encounters every single day, but every time, he would coldly shoo me away, cursing me for being a clingy pest, but he wouldn't have to worry about that anymore. For Mrs. Su's birthday, our family was invited to join the celebration. During the meal, I casually ladled a bowl of soup for Mr. Su. As I passed it over, Su Qingyu instinctively reached out to take it, but his hand closed on empty air. He paused for a moment, saying nothing. After the meal, however, he stopped me in the hallway, his handsome face filled with anger. What do you mean by that? I knew what he was asking. Every time I visited his home, I would bring him a gift. During meals, I was even more attentive, ladling soup for him and picking out the best morsels for his bowl. But this time, I brought nothing, and I certainly didn't wait on him hand and foot like a nanny. He wasn't used to it. What is it? He glared at me, and after a long pause, he grumbled with displeasure. I already agreed to give this a try with you, so why are you playing hard to get now? Keep pulling stunts like this, and one day I'll really ignore you. See if you don't regret it then. I gave a faint smile. I won't regret it. You, fine, Jiang Wanqing, you said it yourself. After our unpleasant parting that day, I didn't see Su Qingyu again. The story of how I brought the police to rescue Su Qingyu after he was kidnapped exploded all over the school. Everyone started saying we were already engaged, and they vilified Wu Yufei for trying to come between us. That day, right after class, Su Qingyu walked up and slapped me across the face. Jiang Wanqing, how could you be so vicious? How can Wu Yufei face anyone with you spreading rumors like that? Apologize to her. Wu Yufei, her eyes red, hid behind him. Jiang Wanqing, I know you're jealous that Qingyu is good to me, but you can't humiliate me like this. Yet her eyes were unmistakably filled with schadenfreude. I frowned, a flicker of impatience crossing my face. I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I apologize? In my past life, Su Qingyu and I were already married by this point, but to please him, I still apologized to Wu Yufei as he demanded. I had to read my letter of self-criticism over the school broadcast again, admitting I had lied in a moment of weakness. During that period, the whole school was pointing fingers and whispering about me. Due to the negative impact, my eligibility for the merit-based awards was also revoked. I only found out later that the whole thing got out because Wu Yufei let it slip. Not only did Su Qingyu not blame her, he even comforted her. Yet he never mentioned a word about what I had endured. At that memory, I let out a cold laugh and turned to leave. Now, I don't even care about Su Qingyu anymore, let alone take the fall for Wu Yufei. But Wu Yufei ran over to block my way. Before I could react, she let out a shriek and fell heavily to the ground. A force shoved me aside, and Su Qingyu helped her up, absolutely furious. Jiang Wanqing, what's gotten into you? Wu Yufei said weakly. Qingyu, don't get angry with her on my account. I'm fine. Ouch. Su Qingyu helped her up, his heart aching. Don't defend her anymore. It's precisely because you're always so forgiving that she takes advantage of you. Then, he looked up and glared at me. Apologize. I was in a hurry to get to class, so I bowed indifferently. I'm sorry, Wu. Su Qingyu was taken aback, not expecting me to give in so easily. Then he said coldly, if anything happens to you, Fei, I will make you pay. After that, I didn't see them for several days. The school provided language training for government-sponsored students studying abroad. There, I made new friends and gained a broader perspective on the world. In my past life, having witnessed my country's 3 decades of rapid development, I deeply felt my own lack of worldly experience. I was particularly envious when I saw my fellow students from that same period achieving great success in their careers. But spending a lifetime hand in hand with Suching is something I have never regretted for a moment. It's only now I realize that no one should live their life for someone else. I lost myself for Suching, so it's no wonder he never loved me. Cramming at the last minute, I immersed myself in language study every day. That was, until the Su family brought up marriage again. This time, I refused firmly. After a sigh, Mr. Su didn't press the matter further. I also took the opportunity to remind him to keep an eye on his secretary's movements. According to the timeline from my past life, he would face an investigation by the Disciplinary Inspection Commission in 1 month. In my past life, after Su's father was arrested, I ran myself ragged pulling strings and gathering evidence to clear his name, to get a single meeting with the city leadership. I waited in a downpour for over 10 hours, when searching for evidence. I went 2 days and a night without sleep, yet in Suching's eyes, all of this was simply my duty. I was just supposed to follow him around like a devoted lapdog, giving everything and expecting nothing in return. It was the same after we got married. For 30 years, he never lifted a finger around the house. Neither my daughter nor I ever had a single meal cooked by him. When I was swamped with work and too exhausted to cook, he would just take our daughter out to eat with a cold stare. Never once thinking to bring anything back for me. Under his subtle influence, my daughter grew accustomed to thinking that way. She orders me around as effortlessly as she would a nanny. I tried to correct her, but it had little effect. For all those years, my daughter looked down on me, while showing more respect to her Auntie Wu. It's only now that I've come to realize our relationship was doomed from the start. Something so unequal between Suching and me was never going to end well. With just 3 days left before my departure, Suching showed up unexpectedly. His gaze was inscrutable, heavy with unspoken thoughts. "I heard you're going abroad to study," he said. I gave a slight nod. He let out a short laugh then, the sound carrying a palpable sense of relief. "This is for the best. Let's just forget about what happened before. We should both start fresh." It was only after he left that the realization slowly dawned on me. Could it be that Suching has also been reborn? But it seems he doesn't want to walk the same path as his previous life either. I let out a self-deprecating laugh. For 30 years we weathered every storm together, yet I could never melt the ice in his heart. But I can imagine how happy he must be, getting a second chance at life with the one he loves. As usual, after practicing conversation with my classmates, I slowly made my way back, passing by the girls' dormitory. I saw a crowd gathered in a circle, laughing and chattering as they watched something. Curious, I went over and discovered, to my surprise, that it was Wu Yufei confessing her feelings to Suching. She had deliberately put on a neat new dress and was holding a bouquet of flowers, her face flushed with shyness in front of Suching. He was tall and handsome, while she was charming and adorable. The scene filled the surrounding classmates with envy. Wu Yufei is a much better match for the talented Su than Jiang Wanqing ever was. Stop talking nonsense. I heard Jiang Wanqing is going abroad, so it seems there's nothing between them. Listening to this gossip, I smiled faintly. This time, Suching finally got his wish and began living the life he had always dreamed of. I had no interest in watching any longer, so I turned to leave. But then, a man's voice called out loudly from behind me. "Jiang Wanqing." I stopped in my tracks and turned back. Bewildered, the crowd parted to make way, and Suching stepped out, stopping right in front of me. I asked calmly, "What's up?" "Wu Yufei just confessed her feelings to me." "I know." And Suching's expression turned strange. He must have found it so strange that I didn't react at all. When I was pursuing him, I'd always find ways to keep other girls away. Even after we got married in my past life, I still felt deeply insecure. Whenever he was away on business, I'd call him several times a day. He would always snap at me in irritation. "Are you insane? I'm just going on a business trip, and you're acting like I'm having an affair. What will my colleagues think of me? You're being ridiculous." Later, I gradually learned to manage these feelings on my own, never daring to show them again for fear he would grow tired of me. But little did he know, having lived this life once before, I had long since stopped caring about him, let alone the women around him. I said flatly, "Oh, congratulations. Don't forget to send me an invitation when you get married, though I might be abroad and unable to make it back." "Jiang Wanqing." Suching's face darkened. He said through gritted teeth, "Thanks for your well wishes." I shrugged indifferently and strode away. It wasn't until I overheard my roommates talking that night that I found out Suching had turned Wu Yufei down. He said he didn't want to date before graduating, that he wanted to focus on his studies. I was puzzled for a moment. In my past life, Suching pined for Wu Yufei his whole life. How could he possibly pass up this golden opportunity now? But all that has nothing to do with me anymore. In this life, I just want to truly experience the world, build a career, and contribute my part to the motherland. On the day I went abroad, I had just arrived at the airport when someone called out to me, breathless. Su Qingyu and Wu Yufei were standing not far away. He looked at me with clear dissatisfaction and accused, "Why didn't you tell me you were leaving today?" I was baffled. Why would I need to tell you? My words left him speechless, and he glared at me, his expression darkening. "Thanks for seeing me off. If there's nothing else, I'll be on my way." I had just turned away when Su Qingyu grabbed me again. "Why are you suddenly so cold to me?" I looked at him indifferently. "Su Qingyu, we're just acquaintances. How much more warmth do you expect from me?" The hand gripping my arm tightened slightly. Su Qingyu stared at me intently, only speaking after a long pause. "Jiang Wanqing, are you also?" Just then, Wu Yufei let out a sharp cry, clutching her stomach as she doubled over. "Qingyu, I'm not feeling well. Could you take me to the hospital?" Su Qingyu immediately rushed over to help her up, then glanced back at me, his words caught in his throat. I gave a faint smile. "You'd better take her to the hospital now, so you can't blame me later for worsening her condition." At my words, his face darkened, and he helped Wu Yufei away. Once abroad, I quickly settled into my new surroundings. A month later, my parents told me that Su's father had been taken away for questioning. I let out a sigh. I never thought that even with my prior warning, this still couldn't be avoided. Su Qingyu's call came right on its heels. "Jiang Wanqing, you knew about this, didn't you?" I said calmly. "I'm not really sure," Su Qingyu asked, his voice choked with emotion. "Do you resent me? Is that why you won't tell me?" I feigned confusion. "What are you talking about? Why would I hate you?" He was silent for a long moment before hanging up the phone. Later, my parents told me that Su Qingyu had been running around pulling strings everywhere and had worked himself so hard he ended up in the hospital. I paid it no mind. I threw myself into my classes, studies, and club activities, and my life felt incredibly full. But then, Su Qingyu took the initiative to call me. His voice was weak, and his tone was much gentler than before as he told me about the mundane details of his daily life. Now that was unusual. In our past life, we were married for 30 years, and he never let me meddle in his affairs. It was even less likely that he would voluntarily share his life with me. I once asked out of curiosity, only to be met with a cold glare and a sharp rebuke. "You're not in this industry. Even if I told you, you wouldn't understand." Back then, if he had shared the little details of his life with me like he does now, I would have been over the moon. But now, I just find it all rather dull. So I changed the subject. "Didn't Wu Yufei come to take care of you?" Su Qingyu was silent for a moment before saying, "She had some business to attend to back in her hometown." I sneered inwardly. In my previous life, after the incident with Su's father, Wu Yufei also disappeared for a while. She only reappeared after I had cleared Su's father's name. By then, she had already started a relationship with a wealthy young man. After a thorough investigation, I found out that during her disappearance, she was accompanying a wealthy young man on a trip to Guangdong. But when I finally found Su Qingyu, she put on an act of enduring humiliation and bearing a heavy burden. She claimed the rich guy had used his influence, and that breaking up with him would get her expelled from school. Su Qingyu bought it completely. I raised a question, and he actually got into a huge argument with me over it. These days, Wu Yufei has probably run into that rich kid again. Since we grew up together, I felt I should give him a friendly heads up. As far as I know, the only family she had back home was her grandmother, who passed away last year. Su Qingyu immediately raised his voice. "What are you implying? Yufei is a simple, honest person. She would never lie to me. I thought you'd changed for the better. I can't believe you'd stoop to such underhanded tactics to badmouth him." With that, he angrily hung up the phone. After that, he didn't contact me again for a long time. I threw myself wholeheartedly into my studies and research. At the end of my first semester, not only did I receive a scholarship, but my advisor also recommended me for a job. It was there that I met a Chinese boy named Feng Qiyuan. He was incredibly warm and outgoing, often dragging me out to have fun, and we became very close friends. Just as I was about to forget Su Qingyu, he reached out to me again. That's when I found out that, just like in my past life, that wealthy young man had appeared by Wu Yufei's side once more. After that, Su Qingyu started calling me all the time. Sometimes he'd reminisce about funny stories from our childhood. Sometimes, he would talk about his own life. He would also ask how I was doing. He would also complain that I was too busy with my studies and often missed his calls. Whenever that happened, I would say, "Long-distance calls are too expensive. Don't call anymore." but he would keep on hitting me later. On the day I graduated and returned home, Su Qingyu, who had somehow gotten wind of it, came to pick me up on his own initiative. When he saw Fang Qiyuan by my side, his face darkened. "Who is this?" Fang Qiyuan introduced himself with a smile. "I'm Wanqing's boyfriend." Su Qingyu looked at me, his eyes full of grievance. I simply pretended not to see it. Su Qingyu had already started working, and his father bought him a car. When I got in, I noticed a woman's scarf on the passenger seat. Su Qingyu said, flustered, "A colleague had something come up last time, so I gave her a ride and she left this behind." Seeing I didn't react, he glanced cautiously in the rearview mirror, looking a bit dejected, but said nothing. "My parents told me that Su Qingyu and Wu Yufei were dating. It's just that Wu Yufei wanted to get married, but he kept putting it off, using his career as an excuse. I have absolutely no interest in this. My alma mater offered me a teaching position, and I was fully focused on preparing for the new job. Upon hearing of my return, the Su family insisted on throwing a welcome dinner for me, and the two families reserved a private room at a restaurant. During the meal, Su Qingyu kept putting food on my plate. I've never been treated like this before. Halfway through the meal, Su Qingyu brought out a large box. "Wanqing, this is a welcome gift for you." It was the latest model of a laptop. Back when we first got married in my previous life, I once thought about buying a laptop, but Su Qingyu strongly objected. "What do you need such an expensive thing for? You don't need it for work." So I dropped the idea. Now, without me even mentioning it, he's the one who took the initiative to buy it for me. I suddenly felt a bit confused. What kind of person is Su Qingyu, really? On my way to the restroom, I overheard Su Qingyu arguing with someone on the phone. "I'm spending my own money. What gives you the right to tell me what to do? What's the big deal about a computer? Jiang Wanqing once saved my life. For that alone, I'm entitled to give her anything I want. Will you just drop it already?" Wu Yufei, "Yeah, I don't think much of you now. What else have you got going for you besides a pretty face?" Finally, he threw out a sarcastic remark. "Before you criticize me, why don't you go find a job first?" I frowned and turned back to the private room. In their past life, Su Qingyu would never have spoken to Wu Yufei like this. In his eyes, Wu Yufei could do no wrong. After graduation, she had nowhere to go, so Su Qingyu had his father pull some strings to get her a job. In this life, he got his wish and ended up with Wu Yufei, but their relationship was far from happy. Life quickly settled into a comfortable routine after returning home. Fang Qiyuan is a photographer, always on the move to find inspiration. He has a deep interest in traditional culture and often drags me along to museums and historical sites on weekends. We communicate openly whenever issues arise, hardly ever argue, and share a passionate yet stable relationship. It was the first time I realized that lovers could truly draw warmth and happiness from each other. Yet, a major conflict erupted between Su Qingyu and Wu Yufei. Wu Yufei was pregnant and wanted to use this opportunity to get married, but Su Qingyu was unwilling. Su Qingyu's parents flew into a tremendous rage. At that time, having a child out of wedlock was a deeply shameful affair. This was especially true given Mr. Su's prominent position, making the family an easy target for gossip. But Su Qingyu refused to get married. After a huge fight with his family, he showed up at my company dormitory. The moment I opened the door, he pulled me into a tight embrace. "Wanqing, I don't want to get married." I didn't know what to say. I could only awkwardly push him away and let Fang Qiyuan talk some sense into him, but Su Qingyu was cold and dismissive toward Fang Qiyuan, and left after just a few words. A few days later, my parents told me that Su Qingyu had forcibly taken Wu Yufei to get an abortion. I'm a bit shocked. Wasn't Su Qingyu's greatest wish to marry Wu Yufei and start a family? How did it come to this? What surprised me even more was that Su Qingyu actually quit his job and found work at a school. The dorm the school assigned him was right above mine. He'd often come down to grab a meal with me. He also frequently walked with me to the classroom building. After a while, some students started asking if we were dating. I just felt so awkward. After class one day, Su Qingyu came to find me again to go for a meal together. I flatly refused. "I already have plans to go out to eat with Qiyuan today." His expression darkened for a moment, then he forced a smile. "Then I'll ask Wu Yufei to join me instead." Before I could even refuse, he had already called Wu Yufei. At the dinner table, Su Qingyu kept putting food in my bowl and peeling shrimp for me. No matter how much I protested, watching Wu Yufei's face darken with every passing moment, I had no choice but to put down my chopsticks and claim I was full. Once we got home, Fang Qiyuan said in a conspiratorial whisper, "I can't help but think Su Qingyu has a thing for you." I was taken aback. How could that be? In my past life, Su Qingyu told me himself that he had always loved Wu Yufei. After marrying me, he regretted it every single moment. Fang Qiyuan pinched my cheek. He's definitely into you. I'm sure of it. Not long after, my parents told me that Su Qingyu and Wu Yufei had broken up. One day, right after class, someone suddenly burst into the classroom and slapped me across the face. Jiang Wanqing. You despicable snake. Wu Yufei pointed an accusing finger at me, her voice trembling with rage. You have a boyfriend, yet you're trying to steal someone else's husband. I frowned. Wu Yufei, watch your mouth. Who's trying to seduce your wife? Wu Yufei grabbed my arm, her eyes bloodshot. If it weren't for you, why would Qingyu break up with me? Just then, Su Qingyu rushed in and shoved Wu Yufei away in a fury. Wu Yufei, have you lost your mind? What does breaking up with you have to do with Jiang Wanqing? Wu Yufei let out a scornful laugh. Nothing to do with her. Then why have you called out her name in your sleep multiple times? You still keep her photo in your wallet. You've even sketched her portrait in your notebook. We were supposed to get married, but the moment she came back, you called it off and even forced me to get an abortion. Su Qingyu's face flushed with anger, then paled. After a long pause, he finally spat out through gritted teeth. It's me who doesn't want to get married. Just look at yourself. You're acting like a shrew. You don't even have a proper job right now. What's wrong with me not wanting to have kids? And let's talk about your family situation. Marriage and building a life together costs money. What's wrong with me being realistic? The way he avoided my gaze was all the confirmation I needed that Wu Yufei was telling the truth. I listened with a frown, a sudden, inexpressible heaviness settling in my heart. In my past life, I spent 30 years by Su Qingyu's side, and all he ever did was find fault and look at me with disdain. When he couldn't find fault with my family background or career, he'd criticize my personal habits. Now, Wu Yufei has become the target of his nitpicking. While he was drawn to her looks and personality, he soon found fault with her background and career. Perhaps for him, beauty only exists from a distance. Anyone who gets close enough is bound to reveal flaws in his eyes. What he truly loves is merely the perfect woman of his own imagination. After the school completed its investigation, they issued a public statement to clear my name and expelled Su Qingyu. He came to see me several times, but I refused to open the door. He then called and texted me, but I simply ignored him. Not long after Fang Qiyuan and I sent out our wedding invitations, Su Qingyu showed up outside my building, shouting, Wanqing, Jiang Wanqing. With no other choice, I had to let him in. Su Qingyu, eyes red and face full of grievance, pleaded, Wanqing, please don't marry him. Okay, I regret it. I didn't understand my own feelings back then. I know I was wrong. Can you forgive me? As he spoke, tears streamed down his face. I watched with cold indifference, my heart utterly unmoved. Qiyuan and I are truly in love. I just want to be with the person I love. These were the very words he said to me in a past life, and now I'm returning them to him verbatim. Su Qingyu was stunned for a moment. You, Wanqing, have you been reborn? This time, I finally admitted it. He burst into loud sobs and moved to embrace me. I was wrong, Wanqing. It's you I love, not Wu Yufei. I've loved you all along. I just never realized it. Didn't you say you loved me? Don't be angry with me. This time, I'm willing to marry you of my own accord. I deftly stepped back. Su Qingyu, everyone must take responsibility for their own actions. In my past life, I tried for 30 years and never got a response from you. In this life, I don't want to make the same mistake again. I don't love you anymore. The one I love now is Qiyuan. Su Qingyu refused to leave my house, so I had no choice but to contact his parents. They apologized profusely and practically dragged him out of there. Su Qingyu didn't show up to my wedding with Fang Qiyuan. My parents said he's been having some mental health issues and has been seeking treatment. The Su family even planned to take him abroad for a look. Just before Fang Qiyuan and I left for our honeymoon, Su Qingyu somehow showed up at my house out of the blue. The moment he saw my mother, he cried out Wanqing and rushed over to her. He was sobbing uncontrollably, his words a complete and incoherent mess. I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Getting cancer is my punishment. Wu Yufei is a bitch. Wanqing, we still have our daughter. Please don't leave me. We stared at him in shock, taking a long moment to process what had just happened. By the time we had finally managed to calm him down, Mr. and Mrs. Su had already arrived. In that short time, they had visibly aged. With several new strands of white in their hair, we don't know what's going on. He keeps muttering about past lives and reincarnation. He kept going on about having a daughter, and then started insisting he had cancer and needed to go traveling. The doctor said he might have seen something that made him lose touch with reality. I never saw Su Qingyu again after that day. In the 3rd year of our marriage, Fang Qiyuan, and I had a lovely daughter. And I became the youngest professor in the university's history. 5 years later, Su Qingyu jumped to his death. My family and I attended the funeral, where Mr. Su handed me an envelope. Qingyu left this for you. Before leaving, I looked at the portrait in the center of the room. Su Qingyu's smile was radiant. That was the last time I ever saw him. Once outside, I tossed the envelope into the trash. From that day forward, my life would be lived only for the people I loved. Side story, Su Qingyu. I hated Jiang Wanqing my whole life. I hated her for using the debt of saving my life to blackmail me, and I hated her even more for using my parents to force me. On our wedding day, Jiang Wanqing was overjoyed. She was completely wasted, bragging to anyone who would listen. I'm married to Su Qingyu, but my mind was a million miles away, filled with a desolate emptiness. The moment I saw Wu Yufei, I could barely stop myself from running to her, but after taking a few frantic steps, I remembered the room full of guests. Clenching my fists, I forced myself to go on with the ceremony. To be fair, Jiang Wanqing was a good wife. I deliberately made things difficult for her, claiming I couldn't do anything. She actually believed it and ended up doing the housework for 30 years. Sometimes, seeing her exhausted face as she still cooked for me and our daughter, my heart would soften for a moment, but I'd snap out of it just as quickly. Telling myself that Jiang Wanqing made her own bed, and now she has to lie in it. Everyone else envies me for having such a wonderful wife, successful in her career, yet still managing to take meticulous care of me. Yet, I find everything about her irritating, but I don't dare get a divorce. It seems I've grown accustomed to having someone wait on me hand and foot. It was the year my daughter started 7th grade when I ran into Wu Yufei again, who was now divorced. It felt like I was transported back to my college days. I sometimes brought my daughter along when meeting her. My daughter adored her and would even cover for us. I still had my reservations, until I was diagnosed with cancer. I don't want to die with any regrets, so I went with Wu Yufei to fulfill our youthful promise and travel the world, but I never expected Jiang Wanqing to follow us, let alone that she would be in a plane crash, back in time 30 years. I was determined not to live my previous life all over again, but Jiang Wanqing had changed too. Her attitude towards me was ice cold. In my past life, even at our final meeting, her eyes still held affection for me. I felt a pang of panic, but I didn't want to repeat my mistakes. I had to stick to the path I'd planned. However, after spending more time with Wu Yufei, I realized she wasn't nearly as mature and magnanimous as I'd imagined. On the contrary, she was narrow-minded and pretentious. My aversion to her grew, while my longing for Jiang Wanqing deepened. But Jiang Wanqing had a boyfriend, and they were deeply in love. Perhaps this was fate's punishment for me. My thoughts grew increasingly tangled, blurring the lines between my past life and the present. That day, my mind finally cleared a little, and I hurriedly wrote a letter to Jiang Wanqing. After finishing the letter, I looked up. Jiang Wanqing was standing by the window calling my name, and I happily went to meet her. Next story, the day before my wedding, I gained the ability to read minds. That very day, I bought a train ticket to Kyoto and rushed back to my old home overnight. My fiancé from before I lost my memory glared at me coldly. So you decided to come back. I instinctively wanted to run, but the next second, a pitiful, whiny voice drifted from the man. You little heartless thing. Do you have any idea how long I've been looking for you? So you finally decided to come back. If you'd been any later, Flower Girl would be having her third litter. He didn't seem so scary after all. The day before the wedding, my soon-to-be sister-in-law and I went to town to buy the peanuts, red dates, and other dried goods needed for the next day. The stuff was really heavy, and I was struggling to carry it all by myself. Sweat trickled down my brow and dripped into my eyes. My vision instantly blurred. I wanted to call out to my sister-in-law up ahead to help me with the bag so I could wipe my face. No matter how much I shouted, the person ahead didn't stop. I could only watch their blurred figure gradually vanish from sight. With no other choice, I had to bend down and try to untangle the knotted bag from my wrist. Just as I was bent over, working on the bag, a tremendous force slammed into me from behind. I was sent sprawling forward, bag and all. After the fall, my mind went completely blank, and a ringing filled my ears. A full 30 seconds passed before I could hear anything again. The boy who bumped into me was apologizing while helping me pick up the dried fruit scattered on the ground, yet, he was also muttering, "She looks quite pretty, but why isn't she saying anything? Could she be a simpleton? Who are you calling an idiot? He just bumped into me, and now he has the nerve to call me an idiot." Huh, the guy looked utterly shocked. Holy crap, this girl can talk. Sigh, so what if he can talk? He's still an idiot. Me, I just can't let this idiot thing go. Can I shoved his hand away as he tried to hand me the thing. You're the idiot, your whole family are idiots, get lost. The guy slunk away, and would you believe it, he was still muttering under his breath as he left. What's her problem? Completely unhinged. Am I the one who's being ridiculous? Isn't he, the one who called me an idiot? The one who's truly out of line? I'm absolutely furious, grumbling under my breath. I started picking things up, only to discover, to my utter dismay, that 2 of the bags had torn. We have nothing to put the red dates and peanuts in. The nearest grocery store is a 10-minute walk back the way we came. I regret it. I should have made that guy buy a couple of big bags at the grocery store before telling him to get lost. What do I do now? I thought about it for a long time and could only come up with one idea: hide these dried goods in the grass by the roadside, then sneak back home to get money and come out to buy a bag. There's no other way. My future mother-in-law is a real piece of work. If she finds out I can't even handle a simple task like this, there's no telling how she'll tear into me. We're about to get married, and I don't want to have a falling out with her the day before. I hurried back to the village. On my way home, I was surprised to find that the 2 aunties who usually spent all day chatting at the village entrance would agree with each other one moment, and then start gossiping about each other's faults the next. Me, I was completely and utterly gobsmacked, and yet, somehow, they were still having a perfectly civil conversation. Their composure is truly impressive. Wait a minute, something doesn't seem quite right here. I watched for a while longer and noticed the aunties weren't even moving their lips while mentally listing each other's faults. So, I then factored in the guy's reaction from earlier. A wild idea began to take shape in my mind. Holy crap, am I reading minds? I crept back into the house, and just as I was about to go upstairs, I heard the sound of footsteps. Someone was coming down from upstairs. I quickly hid beneath the slope of the staircase. Look at that wonderful wife you insisted on marrying. She went out to buy something and still isn't back. Can't even handle a simple errand. What on earth did you marry her for? The sharp, cutting voice of my future mother-in-law came from the top of the stairs. I pursed my lips. That old witch, always bad-mouthing me to shall we, but shall we spoke up quickly. Mom, don't talk about Tion like that. She's not used to doing these things. My heart warmed, and I was about to let a happy smile curl my lips as usual, when a man's voice, just as shrill and piercing as the old woman's, came down the stairs. You think I wanted to marry her? She's a useless good-for-nothing who can't do a damn thing. If it weren't for the huge payout from Miss Gao after I marry her, why the hell would I put up with this little bitch's attitude day in and day out? This little tart's only redeeming quality is her looks. Won't even let me touch her before the wedding. Just wait till tomorrow night. I'll make sure she regrets it. The vile, disgusting words hit my ears, and my entire body froze in place. The blood in my veins ran cold. What did he say? I slowly rolled my eyes, trying to process the 2 sentences packed with so much information. The old hag had already been persuaded by him to go downstairs, but Guangwei hadn't left. The sound of a lighter flicking on came from above, and soon the acrid smell of cheap cigarettes began to permeate the stairwell. He smoked in silence, his heart awash with bitter resentment. Yes, bitter resentment. I never imagined that the gentle boyfriend persona he'd maintained for the past 2 years had been a form of torment for him. All those beautiful, touching moments from the past now seemed so bitterly ironic. Guangwei never loved me. Everything he did was on someone else's orders, all for that sum of money. He and that woman, Gao, concocted this enormous lie together. Their goal was to have me, the former fiancé of the Zhou Group's CEO, waste my entire life away in this backward little village. Finally, the cigarette was finished. Guangwei got up and moved around, opening the window in the stairwell before he left. He really is dedicated to his work. He knows I hate the smell of smoke, so he opened the window to air the place out after finishing his cigarette. Once I realized the truth, I made the decisive choice to get out of there. Are you kidding? If I don't run now, am I supposed to wait around and marry him tomorrow? After Guangwei left, I quietly slipped back to my own room. I took out all the money from the spare change box. There wasn't much. Everyone in the village made their living by selling vegetables. I didn't know how to do farm work, so I had no income. This money was just occasional handouts from Guangwei. All in all, it only amounted to about $100 back then. I thought since he worked hard for his money, I shouldn't accept it. Now, I just regret not squeezing more out of him back then. If I had ever asked for a little more, he probably would have agreed with forced politeness while internally seething. Just thinking about it makes me laugh. I took my ID card out of the drawer again. I had to ask him for this ID card just this morning, so I could take it with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau this afternoon to register our marriage. No wonder he usually keeps my ID card locked away. He must be afraid I'll run off if I ever get my memory back. Finally, I found 2 red bags in the corner before leaving the room. I jogged back to the roadside and dug out those dried goods from the pile of grass. After packing everything into bags, I dragged the large sacks back towards town. Call it fate or what. But as I walked, I spotted that boy again, the one who had shoved me. The moment he saw me, he instinctively tried to get away. I quickly called out to him, "Hey, kid, don't run." He hesitated and stopped in his tracks. Damn, not this crazy woman again. I ignored the crazy woman remark, hurried over, and shoved the dried goods, red dates, peanuts, dried longan, and the like, into his hands. Young man, I really have to thank you today. If it weren't for him bumping into me today, I'd still be completely in the dark. I enthusiastically filled his hands to the brim, and when they couldn't hold any more, I directed him to stuff the rest into his pockets. Only when there was truly no space left on his entire person did I finally thank him and wave goodbye. Happily, I picked up the large bag and ran ahead. As the boy's inner thoughts drifted slowly toward me, who would have thought she was such a kind-hearted, silly woman, me? Could you please stop harping on those 3 words? After hauling my things to town, my first order of business was to return all the dried goods for cash. Then I hailed a cab to the train station. Although Shurjia village was remote, it was still within XX province and not too far from the capital, with plenty of train services available. Buying a ticket and boarding the old green train finally gave me a faint sense of reality. So much has happened in just this one morning. Even though I weighed the pros and cons in time and made a choice, it all feels so surreal, so unreal. Who would have thought that from the moment I first laid eyes on Shiguanghui in the hospital 2 years ago, my life has been nothing but a lie? The train was packed. I closed my eyes, trying to rest, but the cacophony of sounds around me was inescapable. By the time I stepped off the train, it was already past 6 in the evening. Would my fiancé still be at the office at this hour? Well, there's nothing to be done if he's not. That's all I know. I gave the driver the company's name. I arrived at the company building and, seeing the tightly shut main door, slumped against it in exhaustion. My hand unconsciously gripped the door handle. Authentication successful. Welcome back, a mechanical female voice sounded. As I stood up, the door in front of me simply swung open. My jaw dropped in surprise, but I quickly slipped inside. The door slowly closed behind me as I wandered curiously around the lobby. I found that aside from the elevator and the restroom, all the other doors were locked. There was also a small screen in the middle of the elevator, identical to the one on the door handle. I tentatively placed my finger on it, and the elevator door on the far right slid open. Once inside, I noticed there was only a single floor button. I pressed the button, and the elevator began its smooth, steady ascent. Ding! The elevator arrived at my floor, and I made my way, without a second thought, into the office's inner lounge. I probably should have wondered how I knew my way around so well, but I was utterly exhausted, and the sight of the soft, inviting sheets left me with just one thought: sleep. I can't believe I dozed off so late at night. I dreamed of you again, you little rascal. At least you knew to come find me in my dreams. If only this were real. In my groggy state, I heard a faint sound, and then half of my blanket was pulled away. A chill draft swept in. I fumbled around with my hand, failing to find the blanket but stumbling upon a warm presence instead. Instinctively, I snuggled closer, pressing myself against that warmth, and drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep. Perhaps because I had gone to bed early the night before, I woke up much earlier than usual. The moment I opened my eyes, I knew something was off. An unfamiliar, yet warm scent enveloped me completely. A long arm wrapped around my waist, holding me captive against the man's chest. My breath hitched, and my eyes flew wide open. Memories from last night came flooding back. I was certain there hadn't been a tall man in my bed when I fell asleep. So, where did he come from? As if sensing my movement, the man frowned slightly, looking as if he might wake up any second. I covered my mouth with both hands, slowed my breathing, and just prayed he wouldn't wake up. Life is long, and I really don't want to die of embarrassment. His hand at my waist tightened slightly, and the furrow in his brow smoothed away almost instantly. I had just let out a sigh of relief. The very next second, the lounge door was violently flung open. "Zhou Ziqian, you ungrateful." The sound cut off abruptly. "Mr. Zhou, Chairman Zhou is resting. Perhaps you should." The assistant behind the man tried to dissuade him further, but the lounge door was shut again the next second. The man suddenly stepped back, nearly colliding with his assistant. "Mr. Zhou?" he asked, puzzled. The man, however, suddenly began humming a cheerful tune. "Let's go. What are you still standing around for? Do you want to disturb their rest? What a wonderful day today." Tomorrow I'll be holding my grandchild, listening to the man's receding song. It finally dawned on me that he had gotten the wrong idea, but a simple misunderstanding isn't the worst outcome. It's certainly better than waking up the person next to me. I poked my head out from under the covers. Just as I was about to catch my breath, I met the man's now open eyes. I'm doomed. The man named Zhou Ziqian's pupils trembled, and at the same time, a torrent of voices erupted from within him. The chaotic noise was enough to give anyone a headache. I instinctively furrowed my brow. He began, but before he could say more, the lounge door swung open again. Hey, Xiaoqian. I went to that meeting for you this morning. You all just get some proper rest, the visitor declared in a booming voice, and with a final bang, slammed the door shut. A profound silence fell, leaving the break room in utter quiet. Zhou Ziqian rose in silence and walked into the bathroom. I sat frozen in place, clutching the blanket with both hands, my toes curling in on themselves. What on earth is going on? What are you doing here? The well-dressed man emerged from the bathroom and took a seat on the sofa by the bed. He spoke in a flat tone, his expression detached. It was such a simple question, yet, I was so nervous I couldn't get the words out. I came here yesterday to look for my fiancé, and then, so you just came up. I was so nervous I started hiccuping. Tang Tian, yes, sir, I answered loudly, almost on instinct. His icy expression sent a chill straight through me. So you finally decided to come back. He let out a cold sneer, and I felt like I was already a dead man walking. Just as my head was about to drop to my chest, a man's voice, tinged with grievance, sounded in my ear. You heartless little thing. Do you have any idea how long I've been looking for you? About time you showed up. Any later and Flower would be having her third litter. I looked up in shock. Have you been looking for me for a long time? Looking for you? You ran off and now you expect someone to come find you. He stepped forward, reaching out to grip my chin. Tang Tian, just who do you think you are? For 734 days and 14 hours, I've waited every single day for news from the police and the detectives. Everyone said you were dead, that we should hold a funeral, but I never believed it. The fortune teller always said you had a tough fate. How could you die young? Looking at the man's unusually stern expression, I suddenly laughed. Thank you for never giving up on looking for me. The hand gripping my chin went slack for a moment, and a dazed look flickered across the man's face, but soon, his face turned cold and expressionless again. Looking for you. Don't flatter yourself. This time, no matter how icy his expression became, I wasn't afraid. I nodded obediently, my face clearly spelling out two words: disbelief. Zhou Ziqian's hand jerked away from my chin as if he'd been burned. He then retreated to the sofa and sat down. Where on earth have you been all this time? If you don't want to marry me, just say so. There's no need to disappear like this. Tang Tian, you know I could never say no to you. This time, the thoughts that drifted from the man were filled with utter exhaustion. My heart felt like it had been pierced by something, melting into a soft, tender mess. After I lost my memory, Shiguangwei brought me back to the village. I was all alone there. With Shiguangwei being the only person I even remotely knew, the villagers were fairly kind, yet I felt no sense of belonging whatsoever. I felt like a giant who had stumbled into a land of dwarves, completely out of place with everything around me. When I realized I didn't belong there, I felt a profound sense of relief, but after arriving alone in the bustling capital, I hesitated once more. Shijia village was not my home, and the capital didn't seem to welcome an outsider like me either. The dazzling city lights illuminated the metropolis, yet they failed to reach me. My clothes were patched and worn, my hair was turning a dull yellow, my speech carried the traces of an accent. Everything about me felt out of place in this bustling metropolis. But at this moment, he told me that someone in this city had been looking for me, hoping I would come back, just like the welcome back I heard at the building's entrance last night. It pulled me right in. A bittersweet ache lingered in my heart, my lips parted and closed, and I finally spoke with a parched voice. What if I said I lost my memory? Would you believe me? You think I'd buy a story that ridiculous? For all I know, you only came back because you're broke. His heart plummeted, and before it could hit the icy depths of despair, the man's inner thoughts drifted in. I don't care if it's for the money, just, you're back. That's all that matters. With a soft poof, a tiny parachute sprouted right above my heart. I drifted lazily through the air with it. No matter how much Zhou Ziqian complained, I settled into his office anyway. He said he was too busy to deal with me now, but I shouldn't go wandering off either. We'd talk after work, but I knew he was really just worried about me going back alone, sitting alone in the empty office, watching the endless stream of traffic through the floor-to-ceiling window. I thought I would feel lost and anxious, yet, I didn't. There's nothing, on the contrary, I feel exceptionally at peace right now. Knock, knock, someone's knocking at the door, and I'm not sure if I should answer it, so I used the phone Zhou Ziqian gave me to send him a message. It's strange, really, for the past 2 years, I clearly haven't used a smartphone at all. This morning, after he handed it to me, I just took one look and knew exactly how to use the thing. It felt like an instinct etched into my very DNA. I must have been really into my phone back then. Almost the instant I sent my message, Zhou Ziqian's reply came through. Zhou Ziqian, I've locked the office door. Don't even think about leaving on your own. Zhou Ziqian, don't worry about the people outside. I've already sent someone to handle it. Me. Oh, sure enough, the knocking outside stopped after just a little while. I took a quick look around his office and found the place was remarkably clean. A simple palette of black, white, and gray. With no extra color at all, feeling a bit bored, I followed my instincts and downloaded a few apps from the App Store. There were games and video streaming apps. On a whim, I chose the game Honor of Kings. 2 hours later, I was sure of it. I must have been a real gaming addict before I lost my memory, the kind who's terrible at games but can't stop playing. This was my 5th loss in a row. I stared at the latest friend request. Terrible but obsessed. 0-12 in 10 minutes. How do you even have the nerve? I politely clicked decline. I don't know exactly what all talk and no game means, but it sure doesn't sound like a compliment. After declining, I clicked to match again and entered the game. ACE. Just as our fountain was being surrounded by the enemy, the long-sealed office door finally swung open. Zhou Ziqian walked in, followed by a woman carrying a file folder. Leave the files and head back, he said, waving a dismissive hand at the woman behind him. Yes. Of course, the woman replied with a professional smile, though I couldn't help but steal several more glances at her. There's no helping it. Her inner voice is just too worked up. Holy crap, is that the legendary boss's wife who slept with the boss? Is she actually playing the game? I wonder if I can manage to get a friend request in. Ah, she looked at me. Does that mean I can actually succeed in cozying up to the boss's wife? Wait a second. I finally couldn't help but speak up. What's the matter? Do you play Honor of Kings too? Before she could respond, Zhou Ziqian cut in. Do you think my employees have as much free time as you do, playing games every day? Wah, but I do play it. The woman was on the verge of tears, yet she forced a smile. You're absolutely right. Mr. Zhou, I never play games, poor woman. I couldn't help but look at her with sympathy. What are you looking at? Zhou Ziqian suddenly stepped into my line of sight. No, I shook my head. It's just a stupid game. Are you really that upset because no one will play with you? The sudden male voice made me pause for a moment. I realized it was his inner thoughts, and then I heard him speak again. If you beg me, I might just play with you. Huh, weren't you just saying everyone's too busy to have time for games? And now, Mr. Zhou. Isn't that a bit of a double standard? What's the point of playing this lousy game alone? It's way more fun with 2 people. You're this bad and still playing. I could put a chicken on the keyboard and it'd play better than you. Weren't you good at sweet talking before? Did you forget how to butter someone up after 2 years? Ever since it was just the 2 of us left in the office. Sounds like that would drift over from the desk 3 meters away from time to time. Listening to these inner thoughts, I started losing my games even faster. Finally, I achieved the dubious honor of an 8-game losing streak. I looked up from the couch and asked him, do you play Honor of Kings? Tang Tian, do you think everyone is like you? Before he could finish, I hit the start button first. Oh, then I'll start it by myself. Don't start it. Can you let me finish what I was saying? And is that any way to ask for a favor? Couldn't you at least try asking me first? I completely ignored all those voices. 10 minutes later, I looked up and asked again, so, are you in? Zhou Ziqian hesitated for a moment before finally agreeing, albeit reluctantly. Since you've asked so sincerely, I suppose I could come and salvage your win rate. That's more like it. What was all the hesitation for? After thinking that, it suddenly dawned on me, and I was taken aback. Something's off. My attitude. It's all wrong, logically. Shouldn't I feel more reverence for this fiancé I've never even met? This current attitude of mine is far too disrespectful. No, I can't go on like this. I told myself to get my head on straight. But some things are just beyond human control, like my overwhelming urge to curse this guy out. Hey, back up a little. Use your skill already. If you can lock them down, my Luban can finish them off. They're all low. Go in now. Kai Wenji, dove under the tower to save him. He told me to back off. 5 burly enemies emerged from the brush, and his Luban was instantly deleted. He claimed he could take on all 5 of them. 3 enemies at half health. and here I am, a wobbly, helpless newbie. He said they were all low, so I should try to 1v3 them. No surprise, we lost that round. 8 minutes, that's 2 minutes faster than 10. This is pointless, you're way too bad, I can't carry you. He tossed his phone aside and slumped back. I can't take it anymore. I just can't hold back. Zhou Ziqian. I stood up from the sofa and walked over to the desk. Promise me you'll never touch a video game again in your life. Okay, on behalf of all the summoners in the rift, thank you so much. With that, he turned and walked straight into the break room. Alright, I'm satisfied now. The wooden door shut out his inner thoughts. I started another round of the game, this time lasting 11 minutes. Time for dinner, he said, opening the door, walking in, and taking my phone. Before I could even finish saying I'm not done yet, his dark expression successfully shut me up. What's wrong? 5 minutes later, in the Western restaurant, I got my answer. The young noblewoman seated across from me scrutinized me from head to toe with a critical eye. Her expression alone, without needing to hear her thoughts, made her disdain perfectly clear. I fidgeted uncomfortably, nervously smoothing the coarse fabric of my simple clothes. Zhou Ziqian shifted slightly, positioning himself to shield me from view. Auntie, I'm only bringing Tian here out of respect for my father. If you have something to say, you can keep it to yourself. We're not interested in hearing it, he said bluntly, looking at the boy's tall, retreating figure. I thought for the first time that being sharp-tongued could actually be kind of cool. Oh, don't be silly, Ziqian. I was just thinking I could take Tian out later for a stroll and maybe do a little shopping for clothes. After all, Tian's parents are gone. We have to take good care of her, don't we? The restaurant was quite crowded, and the jumble of thoughts around me made it hard to hear clearly. A sudden chill ran down my spine. I stared intently at the woman, desperate to make out what she was saying. Zhou Ziqian quietly took my hand and gently pulled me behind him. Don't be afraid. There's no need for you to trouble yourself with these matters. Auntie, if she wants to go shopping, I'll accompany her. The woman frowned. Ziqian, you're so busy with work every day, how can you find time to accompany a woman shopping? Zhou Ziqian, however, couldn't be bothered to argue with her any further. Auntie, my father didn't ask you to come here to teach me how to date. I have a meeting this afternoon, so I'll take Tian back to the office first. I followed Zhou Ziqian out of the restaurant and got into the car. About my parents, I hesitantly began to ask, are they gone? The second half of that sentence was especially difficult for me to get out. As I passed by the woman on my way out of the restaurant, I finally heard her inner thoughts clearly this time. She said, just an orphan with nothing to his name. Zhou Ziqian offered no reply. I met his gaze in the rearview mirror. Tian, you've lost your memory. It was a statement, not a question. I nodded, not fully understanding. Yes, when I woke up in the hospital 2 years ago, I couldn't remember anything. I'll take you to the hospital. Without another word, he started the car. I went to the hospital and underwent a thorough examination. It would be a while before the results were ready, so Zhou Ziqian and I sat down on the massage chairs in the hospital lobby. I tilted my head and asked him, do you want to know where I've been all these years? It wasn't out of consideration for him, but because his inner monologue was just too loud and constant. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have let my anger stop me from coming to find you back then. Have you been having a really hard time all these years? And after finally finding you again, I went and snapped at you. I think he probably wants to know. I've actually been doing quite well these past 2 years. He didn't say a word, but the tips of his ears perked up ever so slightly. I couldn't help but feel a laugh coming on, and my voice took on a hint of amusement. I didn't see anyone on the first day after I woke up, but someone came to visit me the very next morning. He told me we were from the same hometown, both from Shijia village. He even showed me several photos of the two of us together. And you believed him? Yes, I did. I believed him and followed him back to Shijia village. So you've been living in the village all these years? Yeah, I've been living in the village these past 2 years. I gave a brief account of what I'd been through during that time, naturally leaving out the part where I almost married that scumbag. My gut tells me that if Zhou Ziqian found out about this, he'd definitely be furious. And he wouldn't be angry with me, he'd probably blame himself for not finding me sooner back then. Even so, he still got angry. He didn't make a big scene, though. He just sat there with a cold expression, sulking in silence. I waved a hand in front of his face, my voice tinged with hurt. You really didn't want me to come back, did you? That was, of course, a lie, yet he believed it. He grabbed my hand with such force that I grimaced in pain, my face contorting. Tian, he said in a low voice. I'm sorry. He pulled me into his embrace, his low voice murmuring by my ear. Tang Tian, I lied. I've been waiting for you to come back all this time, and I've been looking for you. I froze, my mind going blank for a moment. It seemed like such an unbelievable thing. He probably isn't very good at telling the truth, I thought, otherwise, I wouldn't look so shocked right now. The test results are in, and my brain is perfectly healthy, but as for whether my lost memories will return, or when they might come back, the doctor said it's not something to force, it's all up to fate. I followed Zhou Ziqian back to a small villa, just like at the company. My fingerprint could unlock the villa's front door. Zhou Ziqian gave me a tour of the villa, and we ended up in the conservatory. I placed my finger on the scanner, and before the door had even fully opened, a big, fluffy mass came barreling toward me. Flower girl. The words were out of my mouth before I knew it. And I startled even myself, petting the big dog. I looked at the man. Is her name Flower Girl? Yes, he said, crouching down as well and stroking the fur around the dog's neck. Huanyo, mommy's home. Are you happy? Ow, 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 ow. Huanyo threw her head back and let out a string of happy barks, as if she understood every word. It was utterly adorable. I couldn't help but feel a smile spread across my eyes. This is little Gardenia, and this is his eldest son, Zhou Ziqian said as he led me to meet the other residents of the greenhouse. Gardenia, isn't that a bit girly for a boy? I asked, my expression a mix of confusion and amusement. No, it's not, he denied with absolute conviction, and yet, I thought so too. But what can you do? Someone was really fond of that name back then. My expression grew even more complicated. As expected, I was that someone. After returning to the living room, I stroked the exceptionally clingy big flower girl and asked my fiancé, who was cooking in the kitchen, where am I sleeping tonight? I checked the guest room, and the bed isn't made. Zhou Ziqian happened to be coming out with a bowl of food, setting it on the table as he replied, you take the master bedroom. Oh, you're taking the guest room. That doesn't seem right. He looked up, raising an eyebrow slightly. Who told you I'm sleeping in the guest room? What about the sofa? At that moment, I still hadn't grasped the severity of the situation, until the shadow looming overhead engulfed me. He leaned down, looking at me from above, a wicked smile curling at the corner of his lips. I'll be sleeping in the master bedroom too, fiancé. His voice was like a hook, tugging at my heart and making it flutter. With my heart pounding wildly in my chest, I flushed with shame. Hiss, that might have been a bit much. His teasing voice snapped me out of my daze. Could you please stop saying such things? I pushed him away, my face flushed with embarrassment. Alright, I'll stop teasing you. I'll sleep in the study. He patted my head, stood up, and went back to cooking in the kitchen. The study. Wasn't there supposed to be no bed in that study? Having just come from the village, I had no idea such fancy things as foldable storage beds even existed. Had I known, I would never have suggested sleeping in separate beds tonight. After dinner, I just watched some TV and petted the dog, and before I knew it, it was 9 o'clock. After a quick wash, I opened the door and looked at the study next to the master bedroom. I flexed my fingers, stretched out my awkwardly curled toes, and went for it. Knock, knock, come in. I carefully opened the door. So, you're still not going to bed? Zhou Ziqian wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. In the dim, yellowish light, he looked particularly serious. He didn't even look up. You go ahead and rest. I still have work to do. I couldn't help but take another look around the study. It's vast and empty, but that doesn't change the fact there's nowhere to sleep. Still here, my hand gripping the doorframe tightened a little more. I closed my eyes. Well, it's not like you can't sleep in the master bedroom. We agreed to split it down the middle. Okay, no crossing the line. Clutching the blanket, I cautiously gazed at the man next to me. Don't worry, he declared with conviction. However, the next day, I comfortably stretched my leg and draped it over the man's waist while nestled in his arms. I woke up to find Zhou Ziqian's intense gaze fixed on me. Ah! I screamed and tried to scramble backward. My leg shot out instinctively, kicking him right off the bed. Bang! Just hearing that made me wince. But it did nothing to calm my anger. We agreed not to cross the line. Tisk. He didn't reply, just shot me a look to check our surroundings. I glanced down instinctively and realized I was on the Han side of the Chuhan divide. No, it can't be. I pursed my lips in mild embarrassment. Maybe he carried me over here, I thought to myself, feeling terribly guilty. This time, Zhou Ziqian didn't snipe at me with his usual sarcasm. He just quietly slipped away to the bathroom. Just before he closed the bathroom door, a stray thought drifted lazily into my mind. My face instantly flushed a deep, beet red. He said, shit, it's about to snap. I think I kicked the wrong spot. Feeling guilty, after Zhou Ziqian left for work, I quietly started studying a cookbook. I planned to make him a big dinner to help him recover. I sent all the ingredients I had gathered online to Auntie Zhang, our housekeeper at home. What I didn't know was that Auntie Zhang was no ordinary housekeeper. She was an old retainer of the Zhou household, worried about the young master who had been jilted at the altar. She volunteered to take on the housekeeping duties as well. That afternoon, Auntie Zhang arrived laden with bags. When she saw me, she affectionately patted my head. We hadn't even exchanged a few words before she headed into the kitchen and got right to work, showcasing her skills. I stood off to the side, feeling as useless as a support character in a team fight who's already blown all their cooldowns. Maybe I should take care of this, I ventured cautiously. She waved a hand dismissively. No need, Miss Tang, just watch from the sidelines. But, I wanted to say more, but before I could get a word out, I found myself already outside the kitchen. At 6:30 in the evening, Aunt Zhang was still simmering soup, and Zhou Ziqian had already returned. What smells so good? He asked curiously. Auntie Zhang is making soup. Hearing the noise, Auntie Zhang came out and greeted Zhou Ziqian warmly. She briefly updated him on the soup's progress, then gathered her things to leave. Zhou Ziqian and I walked her out to the front of the villa. All right, no need to see me out. Auntie Zhang beamed with a radiant smile. She reached out and patted Zhou Ziqian on the shoulder. Young people shouldn't overdo it, you know. When you need to replenish, you replenish. I get it. I totally get it, Chairman Zhou. You're truly blessed. Such a thoughtful daughter-in-law. A grandchild is surely just around the corner. Me, no, you don't get it. How did we jump straight to grandchildren? Auntie, I think you might have misunderstood something. I bought those ingredients specifically to help build up his strength. But that's not to fix that part. No, wait, it is to fix that part, but not that kind of fixing. Fix it just because we should. Do you think I really need fixing? Zhou Ziqian, his face like thunder, cornered me in the entryway. His expression was utterly stormy, just as I thought. No man could ever accept this. A cold sweat trickled down my back as I forced a weak smile. So, what I meant was what? It was, my mind raced, and I finally landed on a suitable answer. Well, since I accidentally kicked you out of bed this morning, I figured I should make it up to you with something nourishing. Aunt Zhang misunderstood me. I absolutely did not mean it that way. Maybe it was my imagination, but Zhou Ziqian seemed to turn a shade paler when I mentioned kicking him out of bed. Anyway, you should drink some more. At the dinner table, I picked up the ladle and served him some soup, even though I didn't make it myself. But it's still good for you, you know, a little extra nourishment never hurts. Going too far is as bad as not going far enough. That's the wisdom passed down by our ancestors. It just goes to show. Your ancestors really knew their stuff. Zhou Ziqian, after downing 4 bowls of tonic soup, successfully gave himself a nosebleed, taking in the study scene, which looked like a crime scene. I successfully felt my legs give way and passed out. That's when I realized I had a fear of the sight of blood. The night was particularly chaotic, according to the nurses. It was a sultry night, thunder rumbled outside, and it could start raining at any moment, just as they were bored on duty. Zhou Ziqian carried my blood-soaked body into the hospital. At that very moment, a bolt of lightning struck, illuminating his face with a ghostly pallor. He looked almost like a ghost. One timid nurse was so frightened she burst into tears. I thought I'd run into the legendary serial killer. I couldn't help but marvel at it. Just how many tonics had Zhou Ziqian taken? If he had bled just a little less, it wouldn't have had this effect. My hemophobia isn't a serious condition. I was well enough to be discharged the day after I woke up, but Zhou Ziqian was worried this might be a lingering effect of my amnesia, so he insisted on a full-body checkup. He even went ahead and paid for a week's worth of hospital bed fees for me. He said my history of fainting at the sight of blood had never been this severe before. I really wanted to ask him, did it ever occur to you that maybe, just maybe, you lost a ridiculous amount of blood yesterday? But I didn't dare to ask. I just had a feeling I'd get hit for asking that, and besides, he was genuinely worried, deeply worried about me. His words were still sharp and cutting, but his heart couldn't lie. For the first 2 days in the hospital, Zhou Ziqian stayed by my side every day, but he was, after all, the CEO, and there were many company matters that required his attention, so afterwards, he asked Auntie Zhang to look after me. Planning to come to the hospital himself after work, I told him, with feigned indifference, that I'd be fine on my own even if he didn't come. Zhou Ziqian's face darkened on the spot. I reluctantly accepted his clinginess, but secretly, I was over the moon. That feeling lingered all the way until the 4th day of my hospital stay. The Miss Gao from Shiguangwei's thoughts came to see me. The reason I could be sure they were the same person was that she introduced herself the moment she arrived. Miss Gao, Tang Tian, you're back. I thought you'd gone off in pursuit of freedom and wouldn't be returning. To think you managed to escape and make it back here, I underestimated you. Shi Guangwei is such a useless fool. He can't even keep an eye on one woman. My jaw dropped, and I asked curiously, is your surname Gao? It's me, Gao Qing. Tian, don't you remember me? I thought you forgot everything. What the hell are you doing back here? The two voices switched seamlessly, making me feel like I was watching a TV drama, or an anime for that matter. In short, it didn't seem like something that could exist in real life. Gao Qing's arrival certainly brought me something, a whole lot of fun, actually. After all, it's not every day you see someone spouting lies 1 second and getting completely exposed the next, and the one who exposed her was none other than herself. Honestly, it's a level of satisfaction you won't even find in the most wish-fulfilling TV dramas. Holding back my laughter was the greatest kindness I could show her. At first, I just thought it was amusing. Gradually, I discovered Gao Qing's best use. She was just trying to use that to dredge up my past with Zhou Ziqian. Me, sis, are you and brother Ziqian very close? Gao Qing, Ziqian has always looked out for me since we were kids. We're very, very good friends. He even said he wanted to marry me back then. Oh, should I be saying this? Sorry, I didn't mean anything by it. Jealous. This is nothing. It's only right that you get a taste of what I went through back then. We grew up together. So how come you get to be Ziqian's fiancé? Under my careful guidance, Gao Qing laid bare the entire dynamic between the three of us. The Zhou, Gao, and Tang families were on good terms. They were neighbors in life and partners in business. The three ladies gave birth in the same year, which naturally led everyone to consider arranging marriages between the children. Since Mrs. Zhou and Mrs. Tang were particularly close back then, I ended up being betrothed to Zhou Ziqian in a childhood marriage pact. At that time, the families were all of comparable social standing. Although the Gao family felt it was a pity, they didn't voice any objections. The balance was shattered a decade later when Tang's father and mother died in a car accident. The Gao family began to have other ideas. However, Mrs. Zhou was a stubborn woman. Her own sister had died in a car accident, so she considered her sister's daughter as her own. Coincidentally, the two of us had been betrothed since childhood, so she took me in and raised me herself. The Gao family's attempt to change the marriage arrangement failed, which left them feeling humiliated. After that, the interactions between the two families gradually faded, but all that came after we turned 10. Before the age of 10, the three of us were practically childhood sweethearts who grew up together. According to Gao Qing's inner monologue, I was quite the flirt from a young age, and Zhou Ziqian was completely smitten with me. Of course, her thoughts are heavily biased, so you can take them with a grain of salt. Don't believe everything you hear. But I can't help being curious. What does a completely smitten Zhou Ziqian even look like? Forgive my limited imagination, but I genuinely can't picture what that scene would be. So, I kept working on Gao Qing with my little act. Sis, brother Ziqian treats you so well. He must have done a lot for you, right? A slight stiffness touched the corner of Gao Qing's mouth, but she insisted, of course, Ziqian is wonderful to me. What kind of things? Can I know? I asked, my eyes full of envy and curiosity. Ahem, of course you can. She smiled again, as if remembering something. Her gaze grew even softer. Well, he once gave up the chance to study abroad, and he even bought a star. He might seem sharp-tongued, but he's actually kinder than anyone. He'll carry someone to the infirmary, stand up for others, and even scold you while gently helping you apply medicine. The tenderness in Gao Qing's eyes seemed genuine, and the smile on her lips was incredibly sweet. If not for that final thought, I might have actually believed her nonsense. So what if he did all those things for you? He's mine now. Me, what a waste that this person isn't an actor, and that Shi Guangwei, with acting skills like that, the two of them could debut as a duo right now. If they're not at the next Oscars, I'm not watching. I was inwardly taken aback, yet a faint trace of sorrow showed on my face. Well, I suppose my acting isn't half bad. Seeing this, Gao Qing was even more delighted inside, but she still said, oh, have I been talking too much? Tian, you're not upset, are you? I was getting a bit tired from the act, so I pretended to be annoyed and shooed her out. That evening, when Zhou Ziqian came over, he was the one who brought up Gao Qing. She said she was coming to see you today, so, did you remember anything? I was about to shake my head, but after seeing the hope in his eyes, I hesitated and replied, I think I remembered a little bit. After all, while there was a lot of content in Gao Qing's inner thoughts, it was also heavily colored by personal subjectivity. Its authenticity and reliability don't seem particularly high. what have you remembered? He asked urgently. I hesitated for a moment before speaking tentatively. It's nothing much, just 3 kids playing house. Shit, it's this one. I was taken aback for a moment, and my gaze toward the man involuntarily filled with curiosity. I couldn't shake the feeling there was an untold story behind those words. Before I could ask any more questions, Zhou Ziqian excused himself to go buy food and left the hospital room. I watched the man's retreating back as he fled, narrowing my eyes. For the first time, the thought of wanting to recover my memory surfaced. It was already 15 minutes later when Zhou Ziqian returned to the hospital room. He placed the lunchbox on the table and called me over to eat. He made no mention of what we had discussed earlier. My curiosity only grew, but since Zhou Ziqian wasn't willing to talk, I could only try to probe indirectly, hoping to glean the answer from his inner thoughts, but there was nothing, except for that initial, fuck-laden thought at the very beginning. Zhou Ziqian remained silent the entire time, keeping the reason for that fuck to himself. It left me incredibly curious and restless. I spent the whole night staring at the man in the next bed. I even remember clearly how many times he tossed and turned last night. Not long after Zhou Ziqian left the next day, Gao Qing came by again. This time, she even brought a fruit basket. It seemed a lot more sincere than yesterday's effort. I was just worrying about having no one to ask. That's just in time, Qing. I have a few questions I'd like to ask you. Perhaps the dark circles under my eyes were too obvious. As Gao Qing happily agreed to my request, go ahead and ask. You can ask me anything you want to know. Didn't the 3 of us used to play house together when we were kids? I thought Gao Qing would be as open and talkative as she was yesterday, but to my surprise, she seemed completely thrown off by what I said. Why would you ask that? She remembered. How is that possible? The doctor clearly said it was practically impossible for her to ever recall it. I fell silent for a moment, feeling that Gao Qing's reaction was a bit too extreme. I wonder if there's something really wrong with her mentally, just like that madwoman from Shijia village. Everyone says not to provoke her. Just go along with whatever she wants, otherwise, there's no telling what she might do. I think the same applies to Gao Qing, so I spoke up timidly. No, it's just that Ziqian told me a bit about the past yesterday. Gao Qing's expression softened for a moment, but quickly hardened again. Isn't Ziqian the one who hates talking about his childhood the most? Especially the part about him dressing up in girls' clothes to play house, to help Tang Tian regain her memory. He's even willing to set that aside. My jaw dropped. Wow, cross-dressing. Huh, no wonder Zhou Ziqian was so embarrassed and annoyed yesterday. That's some seriously explosive news. Gao Qing really is a walking intel-gathering machine. She's just too good. Before going to sleep that night, I couldn't help but ask the man still working at the desk next to my bed. Do you have any photos of us together when we were kids? I'd love to see them. Let's see what Zhou Ziqian looked like as a little boy dressed in girls' clothes. Zhou Ziqian didn't sense anything amiss. There's a photo album at home. I'll have Auntie Zhang bring it to you tomorrow. True to his word, the next day, Auntie Zhang indeed brought a thick photo album to the hospital. A smile crept onto my lips as I looked at the photo of the little boy, whose features were delicate and his attire even more so. Honestly, he's just so incredibly cute. Gao Qing didn't come today, but the aunt who met Zhou Ziqian the other day did visit the hospital. I've been recuperating in the hospital these past few days, and my complexion has improved quite a bit. The clothes she was wearing now were different from the outfit she had on when she first returned that day. The expression on the young aunt's face grew even more displeased. Whispers of a rags-to-riches transformation seemed to float in the air around her. It sounded rather unpleasant. I don't know what I did to upset her, but it doesn't really matter. She's just the stepmother, Mr. Zhou married after Ziqian's own mother passed away. In Ziqian's own words, she's just an insignificant relative. However, as I talked with her, I slowly began to sense that something was off. This person also seems to be one of Miss Gao's people, but this person's ambitions are great. It seems it's not just about the money. I frowned slightly, feeling that something was off. Knock, knock, a knocking sound came from the door, and Aunt Zhang opened it. It's Gao Qing. The 2 women locked eyes, and a palpable, crackling tension seemed to arc through the air between them. I finally understood what this woman's true ambition was. She, damn it, also had a thing for Zhou Ziqian. Well, could this be the legendary small mother literature? I don't get it, and I'm utterly shocked. While these 2 women were all sweet talk and mother-daughter affection on the surface, they were mercilessly roasting each other's naivety in their heads. Gao Qing, damn it, what the hell is this stupid woman doing here now? If she wasn't so good at sweet-talking men, I'd never have asked her for help. Auntie, what was that look Gao Qing just gave me? Just you wait, once I'm sitting pretty as Mrs. Zhou, you'll be the first one I spill all your dirty little secrets to." Well, that was quite the show. The former fiancé, who should have been chilled to the bone by their intimacy, was left utterly speechless, her mouth agape. She was completely dumbstruck. There was just too much information to process. My head is still spinning. How to put it? Let's just say Gao Qing is genuinely unhinged. That aunt is really stubborn as a mule. Gao Qing had always held a grudge against Zhou's mother over the previous marriage arrangement, so, after Zhou's mother passed away, she couldn't wait to introduce her own college classmate, this very aunt, to Zhou's father. Zhou's father naturally wouldn't accept it willingly, so she orchestrated a little scheme. She personally delivered her own classmate into Mr. Zhou's bed. On one hand, this was to exact revenge on Zhou's late mother, and on the other, to obstruct my marriage to Zhou Ziqian. However, by then we were all adults, and this new wife proved utterly useless. Seeing that the wedding date for Zhou Ziqian and me was fast approaching, Gao Qing had this aunt arrange for a fortune teller to read our birth charts, and cooked up this nonsense about us not being allowed to see each other before the wedding ceremony. Zhou Ziqian didn't believe in such things, but his father did. As a result, when Zhou Ziqian came to fetch the bride, he found no one there. I was probably lying in a hospital bed with amnesia at the time. As for why Zhou Ziqian didn't come looking for me the moment I left, I guess he was influenced by their meddling. After all, you can't force something to work. Zhou Ziqian also said he wouldn't force me. He must have been heartbroken when he heard I ran away from the wedding. I clutched the fabric over my chest, a pang of discomfort tightening my grip. A heavy, stifling feeling settled in, deeply unpleasant, when Zhou Ziqian arrived. He found me slumped listlessly against the hospital bed. "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" His cool knuckles brushed against my forehead. I shook my head. "No, I'm fine." Still unconvinced, he reached for the call button. I stopped him with my hand. "The nurses are probably having their meal around this time. I'm really fine." I licked my lips, met his concerned and anxious gaze, and my heart instantly melted. I took his slender hand and asked in a low voice, "Why do you like me so much?" As if scalded, he yanked his hand back and stumbled several steps away. "When did I ever say I liked you? Tang Tian, don't flatter yourself. In this lifetime." Before he could finish, I leapt out of bed and threw my arms around him. "Zhou Ziqian," my voice was loud, cutting through his incessant chatter. "Let's get married." I looked up at him, my eyes shining brilliantly. I don't have my memories from before, and I don't know what we were like back then, but I feel like I must have loved you. "Because," I laughed and said, "because the person I am right now really likes you. The me from the past might not have been that brave." I never managed to clearly tell you how I felt, but none of that matters anymore. Because the me of today is brave. It's not too late for us. We still have time. After those two left at noon, I was alone with my thoughts for a long time. I was thinking about who I used to be. After a lot of careful thought, I realized that compared to my former self, the image of Zhou Ziqian in my mind used to be so much more vivid and three-dimensional. That sharp-tongued, tsundere, and occasionally even a bit irritable Zhou Ziqian, that man who talked tough but acted sincere, could make my heart ache and feel heavy, yet still make it flutter. This was completely different from the Shi Guangwei of those days. What I felt for Shi Guangwei was gratitude, a dependence on the only familiar face I had, even though he had always been a gentleman around me. I never felt a spark. Even though everyone told me Shi Guangwei was a good match, I still waited a year and a half before agreeing to marry him. So, after learning the truth, I had no intention of dragging things out with him. I was disgusted, but I chose to simply ignore it. My feelings for him weren't strong enough to make me hate him. I wasn't even in the mood to think about getting back at him. The next day, I woke up unusually early. I had checked that the Civil Affairs Bureau usually opens at 9 a.m., and since I still needed to do my makeup, I had to get ready in advance. Zhou Ziqian watched me applying makeup in the mirror, his tone hesitant. "Tang Tian, are you really sure about this? It's not too late to back out." Without changing my expression, I said, "Call me wife." I made his cheeks flush red, and he began to stammer. "Shameless, you're so shameless." With that, he walked back to the bathroom, his arms and legs moving in an awkward, uncoordinated way. Before leaving, he couldn't help but mutter to himself, "Wife, wife, wife, huh, that actually has a nice ring to it." Everything that followed went surprisingly smoothly. They were the third couple to enter the Civil Affairs Bureau that day. The sky was just beginning to lighten as we walked out hand in hand, our bright red marriage certificates in hand. An even brighter future lay ahead of us. The end. Extra. Zhou Ziqian seems to have a real hang-up about weddings. Every time I bring it up, he just looks at me with those pitiful, pleading eyes. He absolutely refuses to have one. I'd honestly love to just go along with his wishes, but his father won't hear of it. After we got our marriage certificate that day, we went back to the Zhou family home together to see his father and the rest of the relatives. That aunt, the one who seemed determined to live out a real-life small mother literary trope, was also present. When she found out we had already gotten our marriage certificate, her expression turned sour, and her unspoken thoughts were utterly vile. "It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. The fact that you two are together again would make Ian so happy, if she knew in the afterlife." Mr. Zhou, however, was genuinely delighted to see me back, upon learning about my amnesia. He even declared that he absolutely must throw us an even more lavish wedding celebration. Father and son cursed each other 100 times in their hearts right then and there, but it ended without any resolution. Mr. Zhou said, "Don't worry about the wedding, I'll handle the preparations, I'll make sure everything is perfectly arranged." And just like that, the very next day, Zhou Ziqian put aside his busy work at the company and took me abroad for our honeymoon. It said that Mr. Zhou flew into a rage at the company that very day. I also felt it wasn't quite right. Taking his hand, I asked, "What if your dad really gets angry? Middle-aged men can be quite hot-tempered." "It'll be fine," he said, resting his head on my shoulder. His warm breath whispered by my ear, making it tingle strangely. "We'll just bring him back a gift. He'll love it for sure." "What gift?" Before I could even speak, a suggestive inner voice drifted slowly into my ears. I blushed from head to toe in an instant. For the next 2 months, we were all working hard to get a gift for Zhou's father. The gift was delivered, and Mr. Zhou was genuinely pleased. However, this did nothing to dampen his determination regarding the wedding. "We need to start preparing for the wedding soon. Don't you worry, Tian. I'll have everything perfectly arranged before you start showing." Zhou Ziqian almost cut ties with his own father this time. "Why are you so against having a wedding?" Before going to bed, I couldn't help but ask him, honestly, if old Mr. Zhou has everything prepared, we'd just be going through the motions. To be honest, I don't quite understand his fear either. Zhou Ziqian held me even tighter, his voice hoarse. Tian, I'm so scared. I'm terrified the same tragedy will happen again." I looked up and kissed his trembling lips. "It's okay. Everything will be fine," but he shook his head. "I keep having this dream lately, where you leave me all over again at our wedding. I don't want to take that risk. Believe me, there's nothing I want more than to marry you in front of everyone. Tian, I love you." Zhou Ziqian kissed me desperately, as if trying to draw every last bit of warmth from my body. I did my best to soothe him, matching his intensity. He slept deeply that night, but I never closed my eyes, because I realized he was right. If there really was a wedding, or even if there wasn't, with Gao Qing's unhinged personality, there's no telling what she might do. Now that I'm by Zhou Ziqian's side every day, she can't get to him, but that doesn't mean she won't try. My sudden memory loss 2 years ago couldn't have been a coincidence. I haven't forgotten about her collaboration with Shi Guanghui and the others. Extra 2, Wedding 2. The next day, while Zhou Ziqian was in a meeting, I asked Gao Qing to meet me at the cafe downstairs from Zhou Corporation. She didn't look well. When she saw me, she gave a strange, unsettling smile before finally taking a seat. Tang Tian, I really underestimated you." She let out a cold laugh. "Tell me, when did you get your memory back?" I didn't answer her. Instead, I simply slid a wedding invitation across the table toward her. "I hope you can come to my wedding with Ziqian." I held my breath and listened intently to her innermost thoughts. That was precisely why I asked her out today, to sound her out. Rather than waiting passively, it's better to take the initiative. It never hurts to be prepared. Gao Qing stared at the red invitation for a long time, before finally curling her lips into an eerie smile. "Don't worry," she said, "I'll definitely be there." On the day of the wedding, dressed in my fiery red wedding gown, I was escorted down the aisle by Zhou's father to stand beside Zhou Ziqian. The celebrant's voice filled the air, along with Zhou Ziqian's heartfelt thought, "My wife. You are so beautiful." Under the admiring gazes of our guests, we exchanged vows, rings, and a kiss. Sweetness and happiness flowed silently through the air. Meanwhile, in the wedding hall downstairs, plainclothes officers apprehended Gao Qing, Shi Guanghui, and the others. Gao Qing's original plan was to bring Shi Guanghui and his family to cause a scene at the wedding. She intended to expose the fact that she and Shi Guanghui were nearly married, using them to ruin the ceremony. It was a solid plan. The one thing she didn't account for was my ability to read minds. I knew all about her schemes well in advance. I came clean to Zhou Ziqian about the things I'd been hiding, and I told him about my mind-reading ability. After some discussion, we hatched a plan of our own. Zhou Ziqian took the initiative to contact that woman. He got her talking over drinks, recorded the conversation, and then managed to get hold of her phone. He gathered all the evidence she had secretly saved on her phone. Afterwards, he discreetly contacted Shi Guangwei's sister, gave her a large sum of money, and had her send over everything from Shi Guangwei's phone. I know Shi Guanyao all too well. She's inherently and profoundly selfish. As long as her own interests aren't harmed, she has absolutely no scruples. All it took was sending her brother to prison for a few years. With just a few words, she could get that much money. How could she not be tempted? With both witness testimony and material evidence in place, Shi Guangwei and Gao Qing were convicted of unlawful detention. Gao Qing and her aunt were also convicted of intentional assault for orchestrating the car accident that targeted me years ago. Those who disregard the law will ultimately face its judgment. Extra Chapter 3, a super sweet treat. Ever since Zhou Ziqian found out I could read minds, something's changed. For instance, he used to call out my name in bed, but now he's become withdrawn and quiet. It gives off major, cold, domineering CEO forces love vibes. Of course, that's only if he doesn't overthink things too much. That extreme contrast between his actions and his inner thoughts, just thinking about it makes my knees go weak. Story 2. I died in the first year of my marriage to Lin Zisin, trapped in the fire. I texted him, Zisin, the house is on fire. His icy reply came, put it out yourself. I'm in a meeting, looking at a photo a woman had just sent me. I let out a bitter laugh. I died in despair amidst the flames, only for fate to grant me a second chance. I was reborn 10 years in the past, when the new transfer student, Lin Zisin, was assigned by the teacher to sit next to me. I raised my hand and said, Teacher, I'd prefer to sit with a girl. 1. Teacher, I'd like to sit with a girl. Just as the homeroom teacher assigned Lin Zisin to the seat next to mine, I raised my hand. This action was met with a wave of hushed whispers among my classmates. The homeroom teacher rapped on the lectern to quiet the class before asking me, why? Because in the first year of our marriage, Lin Zisin, to be with another woman, let me die in a fire. Yes, I've been reborn on the very day I met Lin Zisin, 10 years ago. On the day Lin Zisin became my deskmate, my heart fluttered just like every other girl in the class, and so began my long, arduous journey of chasing after him, wishing I could pluck the stars from the sky just to give to him. Yet in the end, I met such a tragic and miserable death. If I get another life, I will stay as far away from him as possible, because I want to focus on my studies. He's so incredibly handsome, and my self-control isn't the best. I'm afraid he'd be a distraction. I declared with an air of righteous conviction. The teacher probably didn't expect me to be so blunt and was taken aback for a moment. In the end, I was given a new deskmate. Not bad, playing hard to get, said my new deskmate, Gu Chennan, as he tossed his bag onto the desk next to mine and raised an eyebrow at me. I racked my brain, trying to recall what I knew about him. I vaguely remember he was some kind of athlete. Hardly ever showed up to class. What playing hard to get? Gu Chennan sat down beside me, tilting his head to look at Lin Zisin, who was surrounded by girls. You like that guy? I was taken aback. My gaze followed his. Lin Zisin sat at his desk, the back of his white shirt ramrod straight. He still looked exactly as I remembered him, just as I'd liked him back then. I don't like this, I said, quickly averting my eyes and starting to gather the books on my desk. Gu Chennan suddenly turned back and leaned in close to me. He stared at me for a long time. Just as I frowned, he said, You're lying. The eyes of someone in love don't lie. 2. Gu Chennan was right. I still have feelings for Lin Zisin. I knew at the moment I saw him standing at the podium. But that's just a lingering flicker of affection, a habit left over from 10 years of liking him. I love myself more. Gu Chennan really was a student athlete. He'd only show up for maybe 2 classes a day, so most of the time, the seat next to me was empty. It really made what I said on the first day of school come true. I started studying in earnest, and my crush on Lin Zisin, along with my attention towards him, genuinely faded. After 1 semester, my grades had surprisingly climbed to 2nd place, right behind Lin Zisin. Suddenly, I became the person my classmates most often paired with Lin Zisin. What are you afraid of? She doesn't like Lin Zisin at all. Everyone in their class says they're like oil and water. That's what I overheard in the bathroom between classes. The faint sound of sobbing came from next door. The speaker continued, Don't worry, you're so pretty. Lin Zisin is bound to like you eventually. How incredibly sweet and thoughtful. Besides, I heard that Song Jia actually has a thing for Gu Chennan. The crying stopped abruptly, and a woman's voice asked softly, Really, hard to believe, right? That someone like Gu Chennan could be liked by anyone. I'd had enough. I pulled up my pants and stood up. It's true, I don't like Lindsayson, I said, kicking open the door to the next room and addressing the two startled people inside, but I don't like Gu Chen-nan either. The two of them were so frightened they didn't dare utter a word. I turned to leave, then stopped. And one more thing, Gu Chen-nan isn't like that. He's 10,000 times better than Lindsayson. With that, I walked out of the bathroom without looking back. As soon as I got back to the classroom, I saw Gu Chen-nan, who hadn't been there last period, already sitting in his seat. He twirled his pen and raised an eyebrow at me. Hey, who got under your skin? I shook my head. At the very least, he wouldn't just stand by and watch me burn to death. 3. Lindsayson and I were both chosen as school representatives to compete in the citywide speech contest. Thanks to our top grades and good looks, the whole way, I made a point of avoiding being alone with him. It wasn't until backstage at the speech competition, when he stood behind me and asked in a low voice, I've never understood, why do you dislike me so much? I hadn't expected him to speak to me first. Song Jia. Seeing my silence, he called out my name. This was the first time I heard him call my name since my rebirth. It sounded truly wonderful. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and then turned to look at him. I can't stand people who are both good-looking and get top grades. He paused for a moment, then suddenly burst out laughing. That's not a valid reason, he said with a laugh, looking at me. You're the same kind of person. No one hates themselves. In my past life, he never looked at me and smiled like that, not even at our wedding. And he was wrong. Some people do hate themselves. And now, let's welcome Song Jia from No. 2 High School to the stage for her speech. Before I could say anything else, the host up front announced my name. I straightened my back, took the microphone, and walked up to the podium. But thankfully, I really like the person I am now. I used to be so fixated on Lindsayson. I never had the chance to stand on a stage this grand. Getting a second chance at life made me realize there's so much more I should be pursuing beyond just Lindsayson. Well, look who it is, my old desk mate. I ran into Gu Chen-nan the moment I stepped out of the lecture hall. He glanced at Lindsayson behind me, then gave me a look full of meaning. What are you doing here? Afraid he'd say something inappropriate, I quickly stepped forward, grabbed his arm, and pulled him away. As I dragged him along, he glanced back at Lindsayson, who was reaching out, and asked me with a casual smirk, feeling guilty, are we? I shot him a glare. Guilty, my foot, you're just in time. I don't want to go back with Lindsayson. 4. Gu Chen-nan is a member of the swim team. I sat in the vast gymnasium, watching him compete for the first time. He stood on the diving platform in his swim trunks, his gaze finding me from across the distance. I could have sworn I saw that roguish grin of his, and with the crack of the starting pistol, he sliced into the water. It was in that moment I realized he might just be even more handsome than Lindsayson. The best part was, he had the defined chest and abs that Lindsayson lacked. Only 17 years old, yet you've built such a solid foundation. My mind was wandering with all sorts of random thoughts, and by the time I snapped back to reality, Gu Chen-nan had already swum to the finish line first. He gave me a roguish wave. He's definitely 1,000 times better than Lindsayson. After my speech, word spread fast about how I ditched Lindsayson to go watch Gu Chen-nan's match and then came back to school with him. Lindsayson's fangirls are becoming less and less hostile towards me, but I forgot. Gu Chen-nan was no pushover either. Are you Song Jia? I was cornered on my way home from school. The way the group in front of me was dressed, they were clearly troublemakers. I lied through my teeth. No, I'm not. The girl in the lead asked the one beside her, did we get the wrong one? While they were still talking, Lindsayson called out to me from not far away, Song Jia, he's insane, he's completely unhinged, wasn't killing me in our last life enough, you're back for more in this one. The girl at the front let out a scornful laugh. You dare lie to me, she said, taking 2 steps toward me. I took 2 steps back. Lindsayson noticed something was off too and started walking toward me. What are you doing? He chided softly. Bro, that's just going to make them angrier. The girl in the lead glanced back at him and raised an eyebrow. What's this? A knight in shining armor. Knight in shining armor, my ass. In no time, Lindsayson and I were both backed into a corner. What do you think you're doing? Just as I thought we were in for a beating, a voice dripping with a roguish tone came from above me. The moment I looked up, I saw Gu Chen-nan jump down from the top of the wall. Chen-nan, the girl at the front said. Sounding a bit embarrassed, Gu Chen-nan glanced at her. You know I don't hit girls. That's why many girls at school didn't like Gu Chen-nan. He's a troublemaker who knows how to fight, at a top-tier high school. That's not exactly something to be proud of. If you mess with my desk mate like that again, Gu Chen-nan said, slinging his backpack over his shoulder as he walked toward me. I can't promise what'll happen. After hearing that, the whole group scattered without daring to say another word. Look at them, now that's a true gentleman. 5. After all, I did save you, aren't you going to thank me? Gu Chennan walked slowly behind me, his schoolbag slung over one shoulder, his tone carrying a hint of displeasure. His displeasure wasn't directed at me. When I turned around, I saw that both he and Lin Zixin had come to a stop behind me. Lin Zixin's slightly furrowed brow betrayed his displeasure. I know him, he's always disliked hoodlums like Gu Chennan. But that's none of my business anymore. Gu Chennan, thank you for today, I said. Picking up on his remark to Lin Zixin, I need to head home early, so I'll be on my way. The two of them, who had been locked in a tense standoff, both turned to look at me upon hearing my words. I'll walk you. They spoke almost in unison. Song Jia, here's the award certificate for the speech competition. Lin Zixin glanced at Gu Chennan with a slight frown before handing me the certificate. I'm worried someone else might give you trouble later. Let me walk you back. I took the certificate. But before I could even utter the word no need, I heard Gu Chennan let out a derisive snort. He strode over to me in a few steps and slung an arm around my shoulders. Class monitor Lin, you should worry about protecting yourself first. Then, with a roguish grin, he raised an eyebrow at me. Come on, I'll be your protector. My irritation instantly melted away as he made me laugh. I jabbed an elbow into his stomach, broke free, and started walking home, waving a hand over my shoulder without looking back. No need, I'm not some delicate queen, I've got plenty of tricks and strength of my own. Gu Chennan's booming laughter echoed from behind me. Perhaps infected by his laughter, I found myself smiling without even realizing it. The disgust and irritation I felt moments ago from Lin Zixin's proximity vanished into thin air. Being a little rascal isn't so bad after all. It was Lin Zixin who led me astray back then. 6. I woke up to find my home engulfed in flames. Terrified, I scrambled out of bed to escape, only to find the front door completely blocked by fire. In the end, I had no choice but to grab a wet towel and take refuge on the balcony. To my surprise, right after I hung up the call with 119, I received a message. It was a photo of Lin Zixin with a disheveled woman, staring at the photo on my phone. I felt my blood run cold, as if a bucket of ice water had doused my fear in an instant. Zixin. There's a fire at home. I sent a message to Lin Zixin, who wasn't supposed to be at work today, since he said he didn't like me calling him while he was working. I never called him. Even now, I still instinctively sent a text message. A while later, I finally got a reply. You handle the fire. I'm in a meeting. A meeting. I looked at the photo on my phone and let out a bitter, incredulous laugh. A wall of fire surged toward me, and in the distance, I thought I could hear the faint wail of fire engine sirens. Just then, someone suddenly flung the door open from the outside. A blinding shaft of light pierced the darkness. Song Jia, if you don't get up now, you're going to be late. The moment I opened my eyes, I saw my mom standing by the bed, looking utterly helpless. The lingering unease from the dream still clung to me, so I sat up and hugged her tightly. Mom, I had a nightmare. It was a truly terrifying dream. Mom patted my back gently and said, sleeping in gives you nightmares, serves you right for being lazy. Mom, I'm not a kid anymore. Oh dear, you're not so easy to fool anymore. I let out a snort of laughter. Thank goodness that was just a dream. After my mom's little commotion, I felt much better. I got up obediently, washed up, ate breakfast, and headed out to school. I just never expected to see Gu Chennan the moment I stepped out of the neighborhood. Gu Chennan. Gu Chennan nonchalantly spat out his bubblegum and gave me a wave. What a coincidence. You live in this complex. I nodded and kept walking. Do you live here too? He shook his head and ambled along behind me. I live just up ahead. I have to pass by here. 7. Lin Zixin is crazy. I'm not joking. Song Jia, do you know how to solve this problem? During a break, Lin Zixin suddenly walked up to my desk. You startled me. Last night's dream is still vivid in my mind. I don't want to lay eyes on him ever again. My hand never stopped working on the problem as I said flatly, no, I can't. How would you know you can't if you didn't even look? He's never acted like this before. I put down my pen and gave a helpless glance at the problem in his hand. Oh, that's the problem I just finished. No, I don't, I replied calmly, turning the page of the workbook that contained the problem. After Lin Zixin left, I turned my head and saw Gu Chennan lying on the desk with his eyes open. The sunlight from the window streamed in, landing perfectly on his smiling eyes. Not only was his personality completely different from Lin Zixin's, but his good looks were of an entirely different kind, full of life and vitality. What are you laughing at? I asked him. He blinked. I just think you're playing hard to get rather well. It hasn't even been a year, and he's already come running to you. Obedient as can be, I snatched up my workbook and smacked him on the head with it. "If you dare say that again, I'll rip your mouth off," I snarled, shaking my fist at him. All I got in return was his brazen laughter. His laughter was loud enough to draw the attention of the entire class. In a moment of panic, I lunged forward and covered his mouth. It wasn't until he stopped laughing that I realized my mistake and quickly let him go, but then he suddenly leaned in, staring intently into my eyes. Just as I was about to punch him in the face, he grinned and slumped back onto the table. That wasn't a lie this time. I guess I really don't like him anymore. 8. I stopped liking him a long time ago. After a decade of affection, all that remained upon my rebirth was a flicker of habit, and even that faint, insignificant flicker was long since extinguished by one recurring nightmare after another. Now, all I want is to put distance between us, more and more distance, ideally. After the college entrance exams, we should never meet again. You want to go to S City? Guchinnan walked beside me, surprised by my answer. Why? Because I like it. In my past life, in order to follow Lindsayson to B City, I didn't list a single preference for S City. Because I like it, I said, looking down at my shadow under the streetlight. I've heard it's a place of freedom. Guchinnan was tall, yet the streetlight shrank his shadow into a small, compact puddle at his feet. It was kind of funny. Yeah, S City is nice, he said, kicking a pebble by his foot, a hint of a happiness I couldn't quite place in his voice. When we reached the entrance to my apartment complex, I said goodbye and then asked him, "Do you really live just up ahead?" He was taken aback for a moment, then, with a nonchalant shrug, he said, "Yeah, wanna go check it out?" "No." I clutched my backpack and hurried inside. Later. I thought it over carefully. The reason I never ran into him on the road in my past life was probably because back then, my mind was completely set on following Lindsayson around. He didn't give a damn about anyone else, let alone Guchinnan, whom Lindsayson disliked the most. The days of going to and from school with Guchinnan didn't last long before the semester ended. When the new senior year semester began, it was time to change seats again. The teacher stood at the podium and said, as if it were nothing, "Lindsayson and Guchinnan, switch seats." I was in the middle of doing practice problems and froze for a moment. Guchinnan immediately raised his hand. "I'm not switching." He had a reputation for being a slacker and was often absent from class, so the teachers weren't exactly fond of him. The teacher frowned and asked with displeasure, "Why won't you change seats?" "I like basking in the sun," Guchinnan said as he opened the window. The sunlight outside was just right. It fell upon him, making his whole person appear exceptionally radiant. From the other side of the room, Lindsayson also looked over at me from a distance, as if Guchinnan's seat was something he was determined to claim. I raised my hand too. "Teacher, the class monitor has excellent grades, and many students ask him questions during breaks. I'm worried that might disrupt other students who need help, and it could also affect both my own studies and the monitor's." The unspoken implication was that Lindsayson, sitting alone for now, was in an ideal situation and should be left to his own devices. The teacher thought it over and found my reasoning sound. In the end, they swapped Guchinnan's seat with the girl sitting behind him. Guchinnan was pleased with the outcome. He balanced the desk on his head and winked at me. "As long as you're not sitting next to Lindsayson, I don't care who you sit with." 9. Senior year studies are incredibly intense, even though it's my second time going through it. I still sometimes feel completely overwhelmed. Guchinnan's training schedule has also become increasingly packed, leaving him less and less time in the classroom. Yet, the discussions about him are only growing more frequent. The girls who used to look down on Guchinnan began to change their tune, one after another, as he kept winning championship after championship. Apart from not being great at his studies and having a bit of a temper, he doesn't really have any other flaws. That was the conclusion my new deskmate, Baikur, came to when we were gossiping about him. My hand kept working on the problem, but I still added, "Actually, his temper is pretty good." Baikur didn't expect me to chime in on the gossip, and in her surprise, she leaned in closer without thinking. "I heard you have a crush on him. Is that true?" "That rumor is ancient history." I put my pen down and looked at her with a sigh. "No way, how could I possibly like him? Don't listen to their gossip." Just then, a bottle of water was placed on the corner of my desk. I turned and saw Guchinnan, a faint sheen of sweat on his temple. It was a bit awkward. After we stared at each other for a few seconds, I lowered my gaze to the water bottle on the corner of the table. "How much for the water?" "I'll pay you back." Guchinnan seemed angry. He didn't take my money for the water, nor did he say a word to me. After he had slept through the entire class with his head on the desk, Lindsayson arrived. Lindsayson placed a form on my desk and said softly, "The teacher wants you to enter this competition. It's to secure a recommendation for your direct admission." It would be a lie to say I wasn't excited when I heard the word recommendation. I took the form without asking any questions, never expecting that this competition would involve participating with Lindsayson. During the training session, Lindsayson sat next to me and asked, "Would you really have stayed away if you'd known I was coming?" I looked up at him. By now, I could look at him with complete composure. "Not at all," I said politely, shifting slightly away. "A guaranteed admission spot is still very important, far more important than you are." I wasn't sure if it was because my movement was too obvious, or because my words were too cold. The smile on Lindsayson's lips froze for a moment. I ignored him and started getting my things ready for class. When I finished the problems and class was over, I looked up and saw Guchinnan standing outside the classroom. He was a far cry from his old self now, and several girls went up to strike up a conversation with him. "You like that type?" Seeing me look at Guchinnan outside, Lindsayson, who was sitting next to me, also glanced over. He said in a flat tone. I turned to look at him and answered firmly, "I just don't like people like you." 10. "What are you doing here?" I asked Guchinnan, who was walking beside me. "Don't tell me you're just passing by again." He reached out and patted my head. "That's the gymnasium next door, didn't you know?" I instinctively turned to look, and sure enough, it was a gymnasium. "Do you train this late every day?" I had come to the cram school after regular classes, so it was already quite late. "You think winning a championship is easy or something?" He gave me a roguish wink. The way he said it so casually made it seem like he'd won it without breaking a sweat. I nodded with a smile. All right. Would the champion do me the honor of letting me buy him some wontons? Forgive my sins of the day, wontons. I gestured with my chin toward a small roadside stall. Guchinnan also looked over at the wonton stall, a smile crinkling the corners of his eyes. "Well then, this champion will grant you the opportunity." Before the wontons even arrived, a woman appeared. The woman, wearing impeccable makeup and a long red dress, stood opposite Guchinnan in her high heels. "Chinnan," her voice was soft and gentle. Guchinnan looked up at her, and the smile vanished from his lips in an instant. That woman looked somewhat familiar, but I couldn't for the life of me remember who she was. I looked at the bowl of wonton soup in front of me, originally meant for Guchinnan, and sighed. Seems my sins run deep. I can't even give away a bowl of wonton soup. I hadn't seen him for days, not since that night when Guchinnan left with that woman. I saw him again at the entrance to my apartment complex. He stood there all alone, a stark contrast to his usual vibrant self. "Guchinnan," I called out to him. He looked up at me, and a faint light finally sparked in his distant eyes. "I thought you'd been kidnapped or something. I haven't seen you in ages." I tried to lighten his somber mood with a joke. It seemed to work. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly, and he immediately gave me a light smack on the head. "Can't you think better of me?" 11. Guchinnan was injured. I pointed at the small strip of gauze peeking out from his leg. "What happened here?" He also looked down at his leg, then tugged at his pant leg. A sharp intake of breath escaped him, likely from pulling at his wound, but he still insisted stubbornly. "I'm fine, it's only been a few days." "How did you end up like this?" I lifted the leg of his trousers, frowning at the bandage wrapped around his leg. He took my hand and let out a soft chuckle. I looked up at him, puzzled, only for him to lean his head down toward mine. His face was so close to mine, uncomfortably close. So close that his breath made my whole face flush with heat. "So concerned about me." He raised a roguish eyebrow, a bold smile playing on his lips. "You're not falling for me, are you?" I was startled. Me. I pulled my hand free from his and scrambled up from the chair. "What on earth are you talking about, Songjia?" He looked up at me, his eyes no longer holding the same expression as when he was waiting for me at the entrance to the residential complex. It was as if he had gathered all the stars from the sky into them, making them sparkle brilliantly. "I told you, the eyes never lie." Without a second thought, I instinctively turned my back. "Guchinnan, if you dare spread rumors, I'll tear your mouth to shreds." I spat the words out venomously, then fled home without daring to look back. Guchinnan's mouth had no filter. He was in the habit of shooting his mouth off. I really should have gotten used to it by now. I shouldn't have reacted so strongly today. With that thought, I turned over in bed and decided to put it out of my mind. Yes, I couldn't sleep. It's all Guchinnan's fault, that dog, spouting nonsense all day long. With dark circles under my eyes, I stared gloomily at Guchinnan waiting at the entrance of our residential complex. He seemed to be in an exceptionally good mood and waved at me. "Good morning." "Like hell it is." I ignored him and kept walking, because he injured his leg. He couldn't go to training for a while and had to stay in the classroom for lessons. Now, the girls in the class have split into two teams. One team was with Lindsayson, the other with Guchinnan. I raised my hand to rub my temple. only to hear Guccinnan's impatient voice. I'm trying to sleep, keep it down. Still, his approach was better than Lindsason's. I pressed my lips together, a little pleased. 12. The competition results came out very quickly. Lindsason, as always, came in first. And I was second. Our teacher was absolutely delighted and said he wanted to treat the two of us to a meal. I was about to decline, but after giving the trophy in my hand a little squeeze, I ended up accepting. Songjia. I had just stepped into the restaurant when Lindsason waved at me. I let out a sigh and walked in slowly. Has the teacher not arrived yet? I sat down opposite Lindsason. He thoughtfully poured me a glass of water. Probably got held up by something. I nodded, then. At a leisurely pace, I poured the water from my glass into a bowl, using it to rinse the bowl, and then my chopsticks. Excuse me, could you please take this away? Thank you. I politely stopped the server and handed over the bowl of water. It was water poured by Lindsason. I was afraid drinking it would bring me bad luck. Seeing my actions, he didn't get angry either. Instead, he calmly rinsed his own bowl and chopsticks as well. Truly worthy of being number one. I never put myself in an awkward position. With this guaranteed admission, we'll be able to stay at the same school, Lindsason said, looking up at me as he washed the dishes. I was taken aback. In my past life, this would have made me so happy I'd be laughing in my sleep. In the end, I could only get into a university that wasn't too far from his. I looked at him with a smile and said, "Is there really only one university offering a guaranteed placement? In that case, I think I'll give the college entrance exam a shot." The impact of those words must have been significant, as his expression immediately froze. Pretending not to notice the awkwardness on his face, I glanced down at my watch. It's been a while. If the teacher isn't coming, I think I'll head out too. With that, I slung my backpack over my shoulder and left. I had only taken a few steps out of the restaurant when Lindsason grabbed my arm. "I don't get it," he said, sounding frustrated. "What is it about me that you dislike so much?" I turned to look at him. Under the streetlight, he didn't seem so aloof anymore. Him holding my hand felt just like the countless times I had held his. "Lindsason." I pulled my hand away and asked him, "You don't like me, do you?" 13. I told you Lindsason was messed up. In my past life, I followed him around every single day, practically ready to pluck the stars from the sky for him, and he couldn't even be bothered to spare me a second glance. Now that I can't even be bothered to look at him, he suddenly decides he's into me. "Totally messed up," said Guccinnan, the injured guy sitting with me on the sidelines during P.E. class. I turned my head to look at him. He pointed at Lindsason running on the track and said, "Look at him. He's running like he's completely drained. Must be kidney deficiency." Pfft. I spat out the water I'd just taken a sip of. "Why do you hate him so much?" I asked Guccinnan, screwing the cap back on my bottle. It seemed like he'd harbored a great deal of animosity towards Lindsason from the very beginning. I remember, in my past life, the two of them barely had any interaction either. Guccinnan glanced at me, stood up from the steps, and brushed the dust from his hands as he walked off in another direction. "Because he deserves to be hated." That's as good as saying nothing at all. Before P.E. class was even over, Baikuer came over and sat down beside me. "You know what? Something huge just happened." She started gossiping with me the moment she sat down. Ever since she started sitting next to me, I've been in the loop on all the class gossip. "What happened?" "Chu Tianhui's mom went to the principal's office." I frowned. "Who is Chu Tianhui?" That name rings a bell. "Don't you remember? That senior who was 2 years ahead of us. Super rich, like, filthy rich, got chauffeured around in luxury cars every day." "Oh, right. I think I vaguely remember him. I think I vaguely remember someone like that from high school. I only ever caught a distant glimpse of him back in freshman year. We graduated over a year ago, didn't we? What's his mom doing at the school?" Baikuer glanced around, then leaned in and whispered in my ear. I was just passing the principal's office and overheard them saying that Guccinnan is Chu Tianhui's father's illegitimate son. Chu Tianhui's mother is in there right now, making a scene and demanding the principal expel Guccinnan. How could this happen? My eyes widened as I looked at Baikuer. "Are you sure you heard that right?" "I'm absolutely certain." Suddenly, the image of that glamorous woman who was with Guccinnan that day flashed into my mind. And then it hit me, with his incredible swimming talent, how come I never heard about him winning any competitions after that? What exactly happened to Guccinnan in his later life? 14. The news that Guccinnan was an illegitimate child spread like wildfire. When I overheard my classmates discussing it, my eyes immediately went to Baikuer. She shook her head. "I only told you." I looked over at Guccinnan's spot with some concern. It was empty. He must have heard those vile rumors too. Just as I was about to go look for Gu Chen-nan, the chemistry teacher at the door called out to me, "Song Jia, go fetch something for me." The chemistry lab was in another building. The bell for class rang just as I walked in, thinking I'd have to find Gu Chen-nan after this class. I started searching for the teaching apparatus the chemistry teacher wanted. Suddenly, a sharp crack sounded from behind me. When I turned around, I saw a small flame suddenly leap up not far away. Ever since that big fire, I haven't been able to face flames. I even keep my distance from the gas stove at home. Seeing that flame grow stronger and stronger, my legs gave way and I collapsed right onto the ground. "Help, somebody, help, help." I was trembling all over, crying and calling for help, as I watched the fire grow larger and larger. Just when I thought I was doomed to die in the flames once again, someone suddenly rushed in. "Song Jia." It was Gu Chen-nan. "Help, help me," I sobbed. Gasping for air between cries, Gu Chen-nan rushed to my side, draping his soaked coat over my shoulders and firmly covering my eyes with one hand. The sky-consuming flames were instantly replaced by an endless darkness. "It's okay now. It's okay." Gu Chen-nan's voice was low and hoarse, thick with fear. "I'm here. I've got you. I'll get you out." It was like clutching a life-saving straw in the darkness. I held on to him tightly. It seemed many people had arrived then, and the surroundings grew loud and chaotic. Gu Chen-nan held me close as we hurried out. I have no idea how long we'd been moving when I finally heard Lin Zison's breathless voice. "Song Jia, are you alright?" The sound of his voice instantly threw me back into the heart of that inferno. A wave of dizziness washed over me. Just before I blacked out, I heard Gu Chen-nan's icy tone. "Stay away from her." 15. They say being burned alive is the most painful way to go. Crouched in the corner of the balcony, I watched the flames lunge toward me, my heart filled with boundless terror. "Help me, please, help me." Just when I'd lost count of how many times I'd screamed, a figure suddenly burst through the flames. It was Gu Chen-nan, 17 years old. He wrapped me tightly in his soaking wet jacket. "Don't be afraid, Song Jia," he whispered, holding me close. "I'm here now. You're safe with me." The sea of fire seemed to slowly recede. A shiver ran through me from the chill of the coat. "Dr. Yi. Is she alright?" I heard Gu Chen-nan's voice through my dazed haze. "It's nothing serious, just a bit of shock. She'll be fine once she wakes up." The doctor's voice sounded distant. "You should be more worried about yourself. The principal is under a lot of pressure right now." I didn't open my eyes until the doctor had walked away. Gu Chen-nan was standing by my bed. His clothes bore the marks of fire, and his face was smudged with soot. "You're awake." Seeing me open my eyes, the furrow in his brow finally relaxed. I nodded, glanced toward the door, and asked him, "Is the principal going to expel you?" He was taken aback for a moment, his eyes lowering slightly. "You've heard about it too." He gave a wry smile, his tone tinged with self-mockery. "Was that your mother the other day?" Just as I thought. It's just that woman. I can't shake the feeling she looks familiar, like I've seen her somewhere before." "Song Jia." He suddenly looked up at me. "Huh. I'm a bastard." I was taken aback, completely unprepared for his bluntness. "So what?" I met his gaze. "It's not your fault. Whether it was your mother's mistake or your father's, it was never yours. Let the adults handle adult matters. You just focus on growing up well and striving to become an adult who doesn't make mistakes." Perhaps it was the overly bright lights in the infirmary, but Gu Chen-nan's eyes seemed to shine with an extra gleam. He reached out and ruffled my hair. "Okay." 16. The lab fire and Gu Chen-nan's family background became the talk of the school. The situation reached a fever pitch when Gu Chen-nan's strikingly glamorous mother showed up at the school. No one knew what she said to the principal, but he ushered her into his office with a grimace and saw her out with a beaming smile. After leaving the principal's office, she didn't leave the school. Instead, she stood outside our classroom and watched for a long time. I glanced back at Gu Chen-nan's empty seat and sighed. She probably won't be able to wait for Gu Chen-nan today. What I didn't expect was for her to call out to me on the way home from school. "Song Jia," she called out with a smile, waving me over. I paused for a moment, then walked towards her. "Auntie." Her eyes crinkled into a warm smile. "In that regard, Gu Chen-nan is quite similar to her. You've grown up so much. I didn't expect that opening. You were only this big back then." She gestured with her hand in the air. "Seems like you were just 6, and now you're a young woman already." She went on talking to herself at length. I tried hard to recall my 6-year-old self based on what she said. It felt like a distant memory, but I managed to grasp a faint thread of it in my mind. "Auntie Gu," I called out tentatively. She patted my head with a smile, tacitly agreeing. "When I was 6, a mother and son moved in next door, staying for less than half a year. They had long since faded from my memory. I never imagined that mother and son were Gu Chen-nan and his mother." Tell Chin-nan that he doesn't need to worry about the school matter. I've already taken care of it. That was probably the real reason she had come to see me. I nodded. Why don't you tell him yourself, Auntie? She was taken aback. Didn't Chin-nan tell you? She placed a hand on her stomach. I'm married. Chin-nan hasn't wanted anything to do with me for years now. The identity of an illegitimate child, a remarried, pregnant mother. How could Gu Chin-nan still be so full of life, appearing to thrive on the surface? 17. Gu Chin-nan. I found Gu Chin-nan in the park not far from my home, after not seeing him for days. He was crouched alone under the bridge, a half-smoked cigarette held between his fingers. The dim glow of the street lamp fell on him, making him look utterly heartbreaking in that moment. Perhaps this is what he was really like all along. He looked up at me and instinctively tossed the cigarette aside. I glanced at the cigarette, which took a moment to go out after hitting the ground, walked over, and smacked him on the head. Have you been smoking? He shook his head. He promptly spat the bubble gum out of his mouth to show me. What are you doing here? He shifted aside, making room for me. I squatted down beside him. Is this place reserved just for you? He laughed. His smile was truly beautiful, like a shooting star streaking across the night sky. Gu Chin-nan, why haven't you been coming to school? He casually picked up a stone and threw it into the river. It's not like I have many days left to go anyway. Your mother came to the school today. His hand, poised to throw the stone, froze in midair. She went to see the principal. You won't be expelled. This time, the stone thrown into the river sent up a huge splash. Gu Chin-nan stood up from the ground. I don't need her phony sympathy. She's married now, carrying another man's child. He looked down at me, his eyes dull and lifeless. She's shed that shameful past. That child will be born with legitimacy, welcomed with open arms and showered with love and blessings from everyone. Song Jia, what about me? His voice was low and hoarse, piercing my heart like a needle. I stood up, meeting his gaze. You have me. In my eyes, you stand in the light, and you are worthy of everyone's love and blessings. Gu Chin-nan, come back to school, come back with me. 18. In my past life, it was right around this time that Gu Chin-nan left school. After that, there was no further word from him. This time, however, Gu Chin-nan had returned. At school, no one tactlessly brought up Gu Chin-nan's background anymore. Everyone had plunged into the most intense period of study. Several months passed in the blink of an eye. On the day the college entrance exams ended, my classmates, who had been wound as tight as a wire, were running wild through the school like untamed horses. I stood quietly in the hallway, feeling a sense of relaxation I'd never known before. That's when Linzison walked over to me. He had already secured a guaranteed university placement, yet he still sat for the exams. Song Jia, he said, walking over to stand beside me as we both gazed at the clouds. Where do you want to go for university? That was the very question I had once asked him. I turned my head to look at him. Ever since I stopped liking him, I realized he wasn't all that special after all. Love really is one hell of a filter. I'll go to university in a city I like, I answered with a smile. But it definitely won't be in City B. He was taken aback. Song Jia, he said, looking down at me. I gave up my guaranteed admission too. I genuinely never saw that coming. In this lifetime. It's as if he's become a completely different person. If you want to go to S City, I'll go with you, he said with unusual seriousness. I like you. Be my girlfriend. I furrowed my brow, feeling a wave of disgust. The tables have turned, and I never thought it would be his turn now. Yet, I didn't feel particularly happy about it. Just then, Gu Chin-nan, standing downstairs, waved at me. My frown eased, and I smiled, waving back at him. As I was about to turn and head downstairs, I said to Linzison, with your grades, you could get into a university in City B even without the guaranteed admission. Linzison, I don't like you, I said to him earnestly, word by word. I never liked you before, I don't like you now, and I never will. I will never like you, and I like even less the version of myself who lost her own identity for you. What's so great about Gu Chin-nan? He pressed on doggedly, following close behind me. He smokes, drinks, gets into fights, and his grades are a complete mess. Just a shameful bastard. The moment he finished speaking, I turned around and slapped him. I had always thought his infidelity was a mistake made by the man he would become 10 years from now, and that I shouldn't blame his present self for it. So, my only thought was to stay away from him. What I never expected was that he could be this kind of person. I don't think I ever really knew him. He's better than you in every way, I said with a bitter laugh. Linzison, what on earth do you see in me? If I remember correctly, I never bothered you from the moment you transferred here. Look behind you, I said, my gaze shifting to the group of girls. With all those girls fawning over you, why on earth would you choose to like me? Are you just asking for it, Or is it that you're so used to being on top that you get off on trying to conquer a woman who's immune to you? I stared at him coldly. If I were just like the girls fawning over you, would you still be interested? No, he probably never imagined a woman would say such things to him. Frozen in place, I didn't move a muscle. A girl who couldn't stand to watch any longer stepped out from behind him. Before she could say a word, Gu Chinnan grabbed my hand from behind me and pulled me down the stairs. Gu Chinnan kept running, pulling me along with him for what felt like ages. The wind gusted against my face, whipping my hair back. Gu Chinnan smiled. See, even the wind is saying you're free. I am free. 19. Lin Zisun didn't show up to the graduation party. The girls who like Lin Zisun look at me with eyes that could swallow me whole. But with Gu Chinnan sitting next to me, not a single one of them dares to approach. Munching on the fruit platter at the KTV, I smiled at Gu Chinnan and said, "You're acting like my bodyguard right now." "I don't mind," he replied, raising an eyebrow with a roguish grin. Everyone had been drinking that day. Many of my classmates were drinking for the first time and ended up completely wasted. After I saw the last girl, who had been cursing at me, safely home, I turned to look at Gu Chinnan behind me. His ears had taken on a faint pink hue, had quite a bit to drink. We walked back side by side, and this time the streetlights stretched our shadows long behind us. Even though a fist's width still separated us, our shadows seemed to be holding hands. Song Jia. Gu Chinnan suddenly stopped. I looked at the shadow and stopped as well. "I like you," he said, turning to look at me. His eyes were always like that, sparkling, as if they could pull you right in. I lowered my head slightly, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. I knew it a long time ago, when he kept dragging me to watch his games, one after another, when he jumped down from the wall to stop that gang of thugs. "My background isn't respectable, my grades are poor, and I get into fights." He repeated Lin Zisun's words from that day, one by one. "But I don't smoke." I raised my hand and covered his mouth. His lips were cold, moving slightly against my palm. It tickled, my palm tingled. My heart itched with longing. "Your background isn't your fault," I answered patiently, point by point. "Not everyone has to be a top student. You're an amazing swimmer, you win first place every time, you know how to fight, but you've never picked a fight unfairly, and you always protect me. You're so wonderful." I blinked, tilting my head to look at him. "I like you too." He was taken aback. His eyes lit up again, as if they'd been sprinkled with all the stars in the sky. "Really, really?" And then we fell silent. I walked all the way back to the entrance of our complex, my face flushed. Just as I was about to say goodbye at the entrance, Gu Chinnan suddenly asked me, "Do you want to try some bubblegum?" I was taken aback. "It's sweet," he declared with conviction. I nodded blankly and held out my hand. Instead, he popped a piece of bubblegum into his own mouth and blew a bubble. Before I could figure out what he was doing, he leaned in slightly and let the bubble graze my lips. My mind went completely blank, and my tongue instinctively darted out to wet my lips. With a soft pop, the bubble burst, snapping me back to reality. "Sweet?" Gu Chinnan asked with a smile. In that instant, a rush of blood flooded to my head, and my entire face burned with heat. I stamped my foot, turned, and ran. "It's not sweet at all," I lied. 20. Both Gu Chinnan and I moved to S City. His swimming performance was so outstanding that our school made an exception to admit him. In S City, all those old rumors and gossip were left behind. The moment Gu Chinnan started school, someone posted about him on the campus crush wall. Well, if it isn't the campus heartthrob, Gu Chinnan, I said with a hint of playful jealousy, sitting in the cafe and watching the person who had just finished training come to meet me for our date. Gu Chinnan sat down beside me with a cheerful grin. "What campus heartthrob? The only person here is Song the campus belle's boyfriend." I laughed and gave his chest a light punch, taking the opportunity to give it a little feel. "You really are getting stronger. At times like this, it all feels like a dream. Even though this is my second time in college, it finally feels like the real university experience. Endless competitions, awards piling up, and a boyfriend who treats me wonderfully. Instead of waiting outside the boys' dormitory every day, time passed in such a beautiful and warm way. In the blink of an eye, a decade had passed. September 8th has come around again, the year I turned 27. I stared at the calendar on the wall, lost in thought for a long time. "It's been 10 years already." Gu Chinnan hugged me from behind, also looking at the calendar. "Yeah," he said, "on this day 10 years ago, I became your desk mate." "Yeah." I turned around with a smile and hugged him. "Hurry up and get ready, we're going to be late. Today is the last match he'll play before retiring. It's a big one." He didn't really want to go in the first place. He'd rather have stayed home with me. I insisted he should go, as I didn't want him to have any regrets about missing it. After seeing him out, I curled back up on the sofa. I'm not sure how much time passed, but then our high school group chat suddenly lit up with the news that Lindsayson was getting married. Then, someone posted a photo. It was a picture of Lindsayson and a woman, unlike the photo I received 10 years ago. This woman was dressed conservatively, and there was a 50% resemblance to me in her eyes and brows. Baikouer messaged me privately, Lindsayson is truly deeply in love with you. No, I really don't deserve that, I replied with a laugh. The high school group chat was still buzzing with activity, but on my screen, there was only the photo of Lindsayson and that woman. Everything was different now, yet, it all seemed to be slowly converging again. I drifted back into a hazy sleep. A nightmare I hadn't had in a long time came rushing back. I was huddled helplessly on the balcony again, but this time, I opened Guchanan's chat window. Just as I was about to start typing, I suddenly stopped. I closed the chat window and dialed Guchanan's number. Guchanan, who was in the middle of a competition, answered the call. His voice on the other end was a mix of urgency and tenderness. Don't be afraid, I'm here. All my fear instantly melted away. I woke to the sound of my phone ringing. Then, I heard Guchanan's voice. Whatever, I'm retiring anyway, just say I lack sportsmanship. I struggled awake, and upon opening my eyes, I saw Guchanan standing before the floor-to-ceiling window. An overwhelming sense of security washed over me. A pang of emotion hit me, and tears began to fall. What are you doing back? I asked Guchanan, my voice hoarse. He ended the call and turned to look at me, with the light behind him. I couldn't make out the expression on his face. All I knew was that he felt as warm as the sunlight. He asked me with a smile, you fell asleep with the soup still simmering on the stove. What would you ever do without me? End of main story. Guchanan, side story. I had just finished the meeting when I saw the news about that massive fire. Mr. Gu, you have a meeting this afternoon. I loosened my tie and bolted out the door, my assistant chasing after me. Cancel it, cancel everything. I drove like a maniac, running who knows how many red lights before I finally reached my destination. A crowd had already gathered downstairs, but Lindsayson was nowhere to be seen. A fire broke out at his home, yet, he never returned. Over there, someone shouted, pointing to a balcony on the high-rise. It's the lady of the house, Song Jia. I pushed past the police and charged inside. The elevators were shut down because of the fire. I climbed floor by floor, my heart sinking with each step. The fire was immense. In the end, I collapsed right outside the door. If I had another chance, I would never, ever hesitate again and let someone else have her. I wonder if even fate took pity on me. When I woke up again, I found myself back 10 years in the past, when the teacher said, Guchanan, switch seats and go sit next to Song Jia. I couldn't have been happier. I started deliberately getting close to Song Jia. I was the one who started the rumor that she liked me. It didn't matter to me even if she was just using me to play hard to get with Lindsayson from the start. All I need is for her to stay by my side, so I can always protect her. I stopped following her in secret. Every morning, I'd get up very early, take a long detour to her neighborhood to wait for her, then we'd walk to school together and back home again. Every time Lindsayson tried to get close to her, I would show up right on time. I made a point of passing by wherever she might appear. So what if she says she doesn't like me? She'll come around eventually. Everything was moving in the right direction, until the day my mother, whom I hadn't seen in years, showed up. It suddenly hit me, that past I can't bear to look back on. It dawned on me then. The truth of my identity that I can never speak of. No matter how much I change, what's coming will come. That man, Chu Tianhui, still managed to find me. The thugs he hired were more than I could handle. You're just a bastard, he said, looking down on me with contempt. Tell your mother to stay away from my family. You will never set foot in the Chu household. I couldn't refute a single word he said. This identity was a crushing weight on my shoulders. And Song Jia was even more dazzling than in my previous life. So radiant that I often asked myself if I was even worthy. After the college entrance exams, Lindsayson found me and said the exact same words he'd said before. Do you think you're good enough for her? He knew I had feelings for Song Jia. He'd known for a long time. This time, I shot back. Do you think you are? Do you even deserve the kind of blazing love Song Jia had for you in our past life? As I was leaving, I glanced back at him. His hand was gripping the coffee cup with immense force. You had your chance to have her, I said flatly. But you didn't cherish it. If you don't cherish her, don't blame me for taking her. Because of Song Jia, I chose a different path in this life. I didn't have to desperately seek refuge with the Chu family this time. Instead, I clawed my way into the national team step by step on my own. The day of my retirement arrived soon enough. The entertainment industry had already extended an olive branch, waiting to sign me into an agency once I retired. I'd do anything to give Songjia a good life. It's just that she insisted I compete on September 8th. I love the way you are on the field. I could never say no to her requests. Then come watch my game. Stop kidding around. I've got work to finish. I'm worried about her staying home alone. I called her twice before the game, but she didn't pick up. A wave of overwhelming dread washed over me. I ignored all attempts to stop me, changed my clothes, and headed home. When I opened the door, I saw her curled up small and fast asleep on the sofa. In the kitchen, the soup I love was still simmering. The gentle glug-glug of bubbles filled the entire room. I walked into the kitchen and turned off the stove. As the bubbling sound faded, my heart settled into a quiet calm. Crouching beside the sofa, I gazed at Songjia's serene face, feeling a sense of gratitude more profound than any I had ever known. It was just a phone call that woke her. I really should have put my phone on silent. It's fine. A little controversy is actually good at this stage. You're not even in the entertainment industry yet, and you're already getting attention. I smiled, pulling her into a tight hug and planting a kiss on her furrowed brow. Besides, I rushed back just to have some of that soup you made. She's easy to comfort. She'll be fine after a little while. The high school group chat was still buzzing with activity. Someone suddenly posted a blurry photo. Songjia zoomed in on the photo again and again. Pointing at the person behind her in the picture, she asked me, "Hey, is that you? That must have been from an event back in our first year of high school." "Yes, it is." I held her tighter. "I was always right behind you, but you never looked back, so I had to run up to your side." She was utterly confused, then suddenly looked up and asked me, "Tell me the truth, when did you start liking me?" A long time ago. I can't really remember. When I was 6, my father, whom I'd never met, showed up at our door. My mother argued with him inside the house because he had another family. I sat helplessly by the front door. 6-year-old Songjia took my hand and said to me, "Grown-ups fighting is their business. We're just kids. Kids just need to grow up well and try their best to become adults who don't make mistakes." Perhaps that was when a seed was planted. The seed slowly sprouts. Then, it gradually grows, until it can bloom. The end.